Chapter 691, The Hallan Clan. Jiang Han, Chen Chenking, Gaik Kong, the warlord of Chan clan, and Jiwash Wang slowly went down the mountain. No one could have imagined that the five giants of Hong Kong, Hua Nation, were going to the west together that night. Jiang Hanyang and Emperor King were expected to go to the west together, and someone had guessed that the warlord of Chan clan and Gak Sing Kong might follow them. But they never expected them to take action so quickly. They had just destroyed 7 local forces yesterday night, and it was surprising for them to set off for the west without even taking a rest. Were they ready? Their speed was beyond the imagination of most people. But their rivals, the man in bamboo hat and Liu Odyssey, were well prepared as well. They remained at the Hallan clan and didn't plan to go out today. Compared with Liu Odyssey, the man in bamboo hat had more confidence because he had clones hidden in several secret places. Even if Jiang Han killed the clone that he was using now, he could activate another one, albeit at a high cost, like the weakening of his strength and cultivation foundation. Only the man in bamboo hat himself knew his weakness. As for the Hallan clan, they were not nervous at all. On the contrary, they were looking forward to Jiang Hanyang's arrival. In their eyes, the blood of the strong was the most charming. Our ancestor, who has been sleeping for 100 years, is finally returning to the world. Many members of the Hallan clan were excited. At the same time, Jiang Han and his 4 companions went up to the front of the restaurant and took Zhao Feng and Xuyong along with their cars to the company's airport. Zhao Feng and Xuyong looked at the plane slowly rising to the air with yearning in their eyes. When can we fight like them? Only by cultivating and practicing hard. Zhao Feng slowly said. What I care about more is when my master will come back. I heard their conversation today. Xuyong smiled. He said that he would come back to pick up Meng Men tomorrow. That's for sure. Zhao Feng replied with confidence. Since my master returned, I felt that he will not allow that to happen again. So he must have a complete grasp of what he is going to do in the West this time. That's for sure. The members of the security group were all very confident. They were not blindly confident because the chi leaking from Jiang Han had been telling them about this fact. Zhao Feng and Xuyong recalled Jiang Han's calm voice and eyes when he talked about his expedition to the West, showing his confidence. However, Jiang Han's companions, including the warlord of Chan clan, didn't know of Jiang Han's determination. Therefore, they were not as confident as Jiang Han in this expedition to the west. The plane took off in the middle of the night. When it reached England, it was still late in the night, with a time difference of about 8 hours. This plane from Hong Kong represented the Meng Men group. The local authorities were also nervous. They didn't want to witness a war of divine realm martial artists happen in England. However, the martial arts world and officials complemented each other. They had no reason to intervene in the war. After all, they hadn't stopped the Western martial artists when they went to Hong Kong. The local official martial artist group had their headquarters in Birmingham in the south, where Jiang Han's plane landed. The government quickly sent 7 divine realm martial artists and tens of grand masters from all over the country as the official power. Therefore, Jiang Han's group was greeted by a large number of martial artists after they got off the plane. Dear Oriental guests, welcome to Birmingham. The leading aged martial artist at the Divine Realm greeted as he politely bowed to Jiang Han. Nice to meet you. The others nodded with a smile. It would look as if they were welcoming Jiang Han just like an honored guest, if there were no vigilance in their eyes. Some Grand Masters were so nervous that they could barely keep calm. Gradually, everyone's eyes fixated on Jiang Han. Is he merciless Jiang who killed 200 Grand Masters? He looks so fierce. Everyone was quietly evaluating Jiang Han's strength. They dared not whisper to each other because Jiang Han would hear them clearly. I'm sorry, but who are you? Jiwash Wang, the slippery fellow, asked with a smile. We are here to welcome you on behalf of the government, and we know your purpose. The aged Divine Realm martial artist spoke to the point. We came here to supervise the battle, not to interfere in it. We hope that you can choose a suitable place to fight and deal with your grievances. Whoosh! Jiang Han took a glance at them and then took the lead to fly towards the southwest. Whoosh! Chen Chenking, the warlord of Chan clan, Gai Xingkong, and Jiwash Wang followed him. Jiwash Wang was not averse to such an official meeting, but, since the core figure of their topic, Jiang Han, didn't want to waste time, he had nothing more to say. "Let's go," said that aged martial artist. The other 7 Divine Realm martial artists followed them. As for the Grand Masters who were unable to fly, they all got on an armed helicopter. Unexpectedly, after the helicopter took off, they could not see the figures of that group of people. They are so fast. Fortunately, there were positioning devices on the leading Divine Realm Masters, so the low-level martial artists were able to follow them closely. "Who are we going to kill first?" Gai Xingkong asked after half an hour. Both, Jiwash Wang and the warlord of Chan clan, turned their gaze to Jiang Han. They didn't know how Jiang Han would locate the enemies. Although they could also use a locating method, it would be easily diffused by opponents at the same level. By contrast, Jiang Han's locating technology was too accurate. To Wang Zanping's question, Jiang Han replied, "The two of them are together." "They are together?" The warlord of Chan clan frowned slightly. "They have made preparations. Regardless of the outcome of this battle." Jiwash Wang pondered and said, "It can't be forced. We can retreat if the other side is too strong. There is a saying that it is not too late for a gentleman to take revenge after 10 years. Even if we are not gentlemen, we can wait for a few years before we come here again." Now that the other side had made preparations for this battle, Jiwash Wang was worried that they might not succeed this time and might even be in danger. Fortunately, they were all in the Divine Realm, the highest level of martial artists in the main world before those at the Earth Realm came out from the gate of the small world, and they were confident of safely retreating from England. "You make sense." The warlord of Chan clan echoed. He agreed with Jiwash Wang since he had seen such things a lot. If there was life, there was hope. Unless the Earth Realm martial artists came back to the main world, Jiang Han whispered. "Earth Realm." The warlord of Chan clan slightly shook his head. "That's impossible. None of them can escape." Jiang Han looked at the warlord of Chan clan and replied. They didn't know why Jiang Han was so confident. Had he learned some powerful moves? Before Jiwash Wang could raise his question, Jiang Han looked ahead and said, "We're almost there." "Are we finally here?" Everyone was ready for the upcoming battle. 10 minutes later, they heard the aged Divine Realm martial artist behind them saying, "The Hallan clan, one of the vampire branches, is not far away. The Hallan Prince is there and I wish you reconsider it." "The Hallan clan?" Jiwash Wang's face slightly changed in surprise as he asked, "Are they hidden there? It seems we are in for a hard battle." The warlord of Chan clan shook his head. "We should try before praising our enemies." Chen Chenking said. He was an excited young man looking forward to the battle. Another 10 minutes later, they entered a mountainous area and saw 6 men above the jungle far away in front of them. They were Liu Odyssey, the man in bamboo hat, and 4 disciples of the Hallan clan, all at the Divine Realm. The Hallan Prince was not there. "Phew," the man in bamboo hat said from afar, "you are doomed to be killed here." They heard that disgusting voice again. "No, we are here to kill you," Gai Xingkong said and grasped the Dragon Tiger spear with his right hand. "Ha ha." Liu Odyssey burst out laughing, "You are too brave to provoke me here." Then he turned his gaze at Jiang Han and Chen Chenking before slightly shaking his head. "Jiang Han Yang, you are a promising young man and it's possible for you to reach the Divine Realm and gain a high position one day. Emperor King, you are a talent and your fighting style is also fierce. I can imagine that both of you would have been the giants in the martial arts world one day, if you hadn't made the decision to come here and challenge me. You are powerful in Hua Nation, but only in the Hua Nation." "Stop talking nonsense," Chen Chenking said. As soon as the unpredictable shadow sword appeared in Chen Chenking's right hand, He swept the sword forward and sent out a 100-meter sword made of chi, despite the distance of 1,000 meters between them. Due to the distance though, the invisible sword didn't injure their enemies. A martial artist at the divine realm of the Halon clan waved his hand to block Chen Chenking's sword. Then he said unhappily, "Oriental guests, you're so rude that I'm tired of it. I have decided to absorb all the blood in your bodies later. Who do you think you are?" Jiwash Wang sneered. As for Jiang Han, he rushed towards the 6 men with his teammates in tow without saying anything. They met the man in bamboo hat halfway and began fighting with various skills and moves. Far away, in the castle where the Halon clan was located, there were dozens of people sitting on the roof of the castle watching the scene quietly. For them, they were sure to win the battle today. It's unnecessary for our ancestor to take action today. Yes, there are too few of them. How can 5 martial artists at the divine realm win against the Halon clan? They will die today. They should finish the battle in 10 minutes. After chatting for a while, they saw unexpected changes on the battlefield. Boom! Everyone sensed the terrifying fluctuations. Jiang Han was fighting against a pale-faced divine realm master from the Halon clan, who was soon finding it difficult to resist Jiang Han's attack after exchanging a few moves. Regardless of the many skills and methods he had mastered, he had no choice but to retreat in front of Jiang Han. It seemed as if he was attacking the air while each of Jiang Han's moves was injuring him. Another martial artist at the divine realm from the Halon clan came to help his fellow and they still struggled to resist Jiang Han's attack. Jiang Han Yang is really powerful. That aged martial artist slightly narrowed his eyes to hide his complex emotion. No one knew what he was thinking about. While the warlord of Chan clan gained the upper hand fighting against Liu Odyssey, Gaik Sinkong was challenging the man in bamboo hat and they seemed to be evenly matched. As for Jiwash Wang and Chen Chenking, both of them would soon be defeating their rivals. There were no rules in the fierce battle. Jiang Han and his companions kept forcing Liu Odyssey, the man in bamboo hat, and the 4 divine realm martial artists to retreat. Those who were sitting on the old castle roof and watching the battle were surprised. How could the 6 of them be defeated by those 5 guys? Chapter 692, The Power of Innateness. Impossible. They even defeated Lord Jelly? These Oriental strongmen are worthy of their reputation. The Halon clan members began to take this matter seriously. One of the men who had wrinkles around his eyes said slowly, 30 years ago, everyone knew the warlord of Chan clan, who dominated the martial arts world as an old weirdo in Shangjing City and was regarded as our strong rival. Jiwash Wang, who reached divine realm secretly, had been guarding Hong Kong and seldom fought against others. Therefore, no one knew how powerful he really was. North Tiger Gaik Sinkong is one of the strong martial artists from a previous era and he has reached the divine realm with his strength multiplied several times. Emperor King is now suppressing the whole martial arts world in Hua Nation and he could defeat divine realm martial artists when he was still at Grand Master peak. He is a terrifying opponent. As for Jiang Han Yang, turning his gaze at the young man, who was fighting against Lord Jelly and Lord Greyly at the same time, he said in surprise, he is known as Merciless Jiang and it is said that this is Merciless Jiang's time in the martial arts world of Hua Nation. It has been less than a year since he attained his fame and he is well known for his cruelty to his enemies. He has 2 kinds of divine objects, many holy objects, and countless treasures. No one knows how many skills and cultivating methods he has mastered, except for those powerful incantations, magic and fighting skills he has shown before. His actions are unpredictable and he always has good luck. It seems that if the battle goes on like this, Lord Jelly will be defeated sooner or later. Don't be deceived by what's happening now. The aged man shook his head slightly. If our ancestor steps in, all of them will be killed, no matter how many helpers they have. But our ancestor totally ignores them. Yes, they are too naive if they regard Lord Fa and the other lords as mere onlookers. Ha 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 ha. All at once, Many of the clansmen chuckled and looked at the 7 people standing far behind. That aged martial artist at Divine Realm was not just an onlooker here. Boom, boom, boom. With a violent fluctuation, the front line moved slowly toward the castle until the distance was 1 kilometer apart. In the face of Jiang Han's weird move, Jelly quickly retreated and narrowly dodged a life-threatening card. This card transformed into a sharp weapon and sheared his long hair into 2 parts. He was extremely annoyed. Then he turned his gaze at the 7 official representatives. Fergus, my old friend. Do you want to keep watching and waiting for my ancestor to come out before you decide to choose which side to support? All of a sudden. Ha ha ha. That aged Divine Realm martial artist burst out laughing. He brought 6 men to the battlefield and said with a smile filled with evil intent, "The warlord of Chan Clan, do you think you can come to our territory so recklessly? You want to make a move?" The warlord of Chan Clan narrowed his eyes slightly. They were not afraid of the 6 martial artists at Divine Realm, including the man in bamboo hat, and they were about to win the battle. However, the situation would be reversed if the 7 martial artists at the Divine Realm came to help the 6 men, not to mention the fact that Halon Prince had not appeared yet. The warlord of Chan Clan felt nervous. He turned his gaze on Jiang Han. Before getting off the plane, they all noticed something, but Jiang Han sent them a secret message which contained only 2 words. The current situation was what they had expected, so how could they settle it? Would they escape or fight? The warlord of Chan Clan did not have the answer, but he was willing to believe Jiang Han. The participation of the 7 Westerners stopped the warlord of Chan Clan and his companions, who huddled together and were ready to escape at any time. Fergus laughed as if he could read their thoughts. "You can't escape. Not only the 13 of us, but also the great Halon Prince will hunt you down. We have 40 of the most advanced fighters, each of which is guarded by a Grand Master. Your long-range attacking means can't cause any damage to them at all. Therefore, you can't escape from our clutches today." As soon as he finished speaking, a row of 40 airplanes appeared in the distant horizon, which was a frightening sight. "Really?" Jiang Han burst out laughing, with scorn in his eyes. He said calmly, "Why would I escape in the face of a group of ants?" Liu Odissi looked up and laughed. Jiang Han Yang, do you know you are doomed? You are so stubborn. As a Grand Master, why do you have so much confidence in yourself? Whoosh! Liu Odissi began to attack and all of his 12 companions followed suit, including the man in bamboo hat, Fergus, and Jelly. For a time, the warlord of Chan Clan was under great pressure. What can we do? Jiang Han's companions turned their gazes on him. If it was not a joke, they would be ridiculed for getting killed here. Boom, boom, boom. Once again, the terrifying waves of the attack spread around. The space occupied by Chen Qingqing and the others became smaller and smaller as their 13 rivals surrounded them. "Brother Han, run." The situation was urgent and Chen Qingqing looked at Jiang Han and said nervously. The 13 Divine Realm martial artists brought him great pressure, knowing that they could not defeat so many high-level masters, not to mention those planes. Chen Qingqing realized that it was a trap for them. "You want to escape?" Liu Odissi said. They began attacking Jiang Han together with the man in bamboo hat, who made 5 moves. At this time, Chen Qingqing and his companions were facing attacks from others. They thought that the 5 attacks would not have any impact on Jiang Han, but to their dismay, Jiang Han did not resist or even dodge those 5 attacks. Hiss! Chen Qingqing's facial expression changed greatly. He wanted to support Jiang Han, but there were 3 Divine Realm martial artists suppressing him. "Han!" Gai Xingkong shouted. Instead of making any defensive gestures, Jiang Han closed his eyes slowly. "What?" The warlord of Chan Clan was astonished. Liu Odissi and the others began sneering. "You are the only Grand Master here." Liu Odissi said scornfully, "You will be the first to die." However, as soon as he finished speaking, all the 13 martial artists opened their eyes wide in astonishment. They stepped backward hurriedly. Chen Chenking and his companions were overjoyed. Clatter. In everyone's eyes, those attacks came toward Jiang Han at a range of more than 10 meters in front of him. The distance was short, and the aftershocks ruffled Jiang Han's hair and clothes. All of a sudden, buzz, a slightly mysterious, suffocating, even desolate, strong chi met them and then swept around in all directions. The 5 attacks, which were like eggs hitting stones, were slowly engulfed by this chi. They did not make any waves, as if they had not existed in this world. Puff. The wind howled through the dark night. The dark clouds in the sky seemed to be forced to scatter in all directions, revealing the crescent moon. When the bright moonlight shone on Jiang Han, he suddenly opened his eyes, which were shining like those of a demon's. He has just made a breakthrough. Gai Xingkong was very surprised and his body trembled slightly in excitement. His last card. The warlord of Chan clan was excited. How powerful will he be after reaching the divine realm? Everyone was relieved for a moment. They found that Jiang Han's trip seemed to have been well planned, during which he successfully reached the divine realm and suppressed all his enemies. They were looking forward to his victory. A person would remain mortal until he reaches the innateness stage. Jiang Han looked at his right hand and muttered something in an ethereal tone. What did he mean? Only the warlord of Chan clan suddenly thought of something and looked at Jiang Han in horror. Oh, my God, that's the level of opportunity he got. Innateness. Chen Chenking was also surprised. Gai Xingkong and Jiwash Wang did not say anything but looked at Jiang Han seriously. He broke through. Liu Disi's face darkened. He felt depressed. He thought of Jiang Han Yang's invincible performance a few days ago, when he killed many powerful people merely by waving his hands. It was so horrible. What powerful means would he use after reaching the divine realm? He did not want to have a try, but he was confident enough to look into Jiang Han's eyes and say, what a pity, Jiang Han Yang, you are talented and will grow to be a powerful martial artist after reaching the divine realm. You should not have come to the Halan clan, because you can't escape from Halan Prince. It's just a breakthrough to the divine realm. Harrow Jelly said disdainfully, I have said this before, even if you double your forces, it will not help. I'm happy to see you reach the divine realm and I'm looking forward to the taste of your blood. Yes. Fergus agreed, even if you reached the earth realm today, you will still be killed. What an amazing breakthrough. The man in bamboo hat sneered. His voice was still low and hoarse, but everyone could tell that he did not care about it. The warlord of Chan clan and others were forced to return to reality. Halan Prince was like a mountain, pressing on them. Although the battle would be difficult, they were ready for it since they dared to come to the west. Obviously, this was the worst situation they were facing. The gate of the small world had not been opened and the Halan clan was one of the most powerful forces in the world and they were ranked at least in the first 3 positions among all the vampire clans. Everyone felt the effect of Jiang Han's breakthrough, just after Jelly finished speaking. It's so noisy here. Suddenly, an old voice was heard. Swish, swish, swish. Liu Disi and all the others turned back. They saw a figure, as high as 2 meters, slowly rising into the air. He had long brown hair, a long and blue face, a pointy chin, and cold eyes. If ordinary people saw this horrible dark figure, they would instantly want to crawl on the ground. Ancestor. Jelly and the others turned around and bowed as they greeted the man. Halan Prince, Liu Disi, Fergus, and the others were now completely relaxed. Even the dozens of grandmasters sitting among the rear fighters were shocked at this time. Halan Prince, he appeared. He is like a devil who has climbed out of hell. He has lived for nearly 1,000 years. Every time he wakes up, he would start a massacre and his hands will be covered with blood. I'm afraid the Easterners in front of him are fated to become the wine in his glass. Oh no, he has woken up. Since Halan Prince was born, tens of thousands of warriors have died in his hands. This time, I'm afraid that the forces hostile to the Halan clan will be in a state of panic now. Jiang Han Yang will be killed just after he made a breakthrough. If the news spreads out, he will become a laughingstock in the world. All of them were staring at Hallen Prince. His tall figure slowly rose into the air, tens of meters higher than everyone on Jiang Han's side and Liu Odyssey's side, and it seemed as if he was overlooking the world. You did not lie to me, the smell of these people's blood is very good, very good. Hearing Hallen Prince's words, Liu Odyssey and all the others burst into laughter, but after hearing Jiang Han's indifferent words, they could not laugh anymore. Looking at Hallen Prince, Jiang Han replied calmly, I thought that you, the so-called prince, would have some skills, but I did not expect that you just inherited a little low-level blood. Why are you so confident to show your strength since you have made so little progress in the past 1,000 years? Huh? Liu Odyssey and the others were all stunned. What did you say? Jelly glared at Jiang Han. Even Hallen Prince's eyes became cold and a smirk emerged on his lips. He grinned and said, since I became famous, I can't remember how many talents have died in my hands. In Hua Nation, I have killed thousands of them, but this is the first time that I have seen a young man as arrogant like you. For that, I will not only suck your blood, but will kill all your family members since you are so disrespectful to me. Hallen Prince's tone was very calm, as if he was stating the facts. This was his consistent style and no one doubted Hallen Prince's cruelty. Crack. After he spoke, there was a crackling sound behind Hallen Prince and two huge bat wings appeared. His face turned even paler, his eyes glowed with a reddish, and his teeth sharpened into fangs. Hallen Prince, who had just revealed himself, was showing his stance toward his enemies. Sensing his breath, the expressions on the faces of Warlord of Chan Clan and the others suddenly changed. What, Earthrealm? Has he made the breakthrough? Jiwash Wang gasped in fear, his blood running cold throughout his body. Clatter. Gaik Sinkong turned pale and his heart skipped a beat. They could feel that Hallen Prince had just made a breakthrough. Now he was at Earthrealm, which was horrible. They felt that they were unable to escape today. They grew desperate. They were under so much pressure that they could not even breathe. Since you call yourself a vampire, I'll use blood to play with you. Jiang Han sneered and thrust his right hand forward. Buzz. A gush of mysterious and profound chi covered the battlefield. Jiang Han's pupils turned blood red in an instant. His body suddenly rose by tens of meters. At the same time, an ethereal murmuring sound came from all directions. It's not for the king who likes blood, but for sealing the spirit. The blood of monsters and elves. The blood of unhurried white souls. The blood of wandering souls in the underworld. Accompanied by Jiang Han's profound words, a bloody light curtain immediately surrounded Hallen Prince and the other people. Now they were all enclosed in a bubble. Gaik Sinkong and the others cheered up at Jiang Han's action. Is this the weird spell that Brother Han used on the Li family? It's called Bloodshock Pluto Incantation. Chen Chenking watched intently and thought, how powerful will the move be since Brother Han has broken into the divine realm? They did not know how strong it would be, but they could tell from Jiang Han's calm face that he did not seem to take Hallen Prince seriously. It's just a trifling skill. Hallen Prince sneered. In his eyes, a wisp of red haze, like a wave, swept around the light around them. Whoosh! Everyone heard a tearing sound, but Hallen Prince did not expect that all his attacks would be absorbed by the light wave and his energy fluctuation became stronger. It's his weird mantra. Liu Odyssey's facial expression suddenly changed and he said, it was the same when he used it that day. We will only increase the speed of the formation of the mantra when we launch energy fluctuations. This mantra can make people's flesh and blood wither. Oh, it's brave of you to use the mantra in front of me. Prince Huron seemed to be provoked. He made a corresponding gesture and began to cast his spell. Accompanied by his hoarse voice, his body suddenly turned into countless numbers of small bats, whose cold eyes lit up as they flew toward the blood-colored light waves. Boom, 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 boom. This time, it worked and the waves of light continued to vibrate. Bop. All of a sudden, The whole blood curtain was smashed by thousands of bats, and these bats kept going straight at Jiang Han. Defense. The warlord of Chan clan shouted in a deep voice. The four of them used various powerful moves they had never used before, but they soon found that these bats were immune to most of the attacks. Only Chen Chenking's Shinik attack managed to eliminate some of them, but for the whole situation, it was still a drop in the bucket. The incantation. The corners of Gai Xingkong's eyes twitched. But Jiang Han did not let them worry for too long. Suddenly, in the face of thousands of bats, Jiang Han said calmly, Demon Blood Pluto incantation. Sizzle. When a breeze blew, thousands of bats suddenly went berserk and flew off in all directions, forming a new boundary, which covered Hallan Prince and others. What? It's impossible. Hallan Prince was shocked. How can you control my spell? What do you want to do with your low-level incantation? Jiang Han's expression was calm when he was explaining what he thought was the truth, but all the others were frightened. Is Hallan Prince's incantation a low-level one? But the facts were in front of them. As Jiang Han's palm pressed forward, the color of thousands of bats suddenly faded and then turned blood red again, and everyone present could only see the outlines indistinctly. The man in bamboo hat and Liu Odyssey became nervous, turning blood. Jiang Han said calmly, Puff. At this moment, the four vampires, including Jelly, were suddenly turned into a cloud of blood. Liu Odyssey felt his blood surging, and it seemed to be out of control. Although his condition was better since he was not a vampire, he was still unable to resist the attack. No. Stop. Liu Odyssey watched the blood seeping out of his skin, which could not be stopped by any means. He screamed repeatedly. 1 second, 2 seconds, 10 seconds. Liu Odyssey's face was pale, and his chi dropped in a straight line. Because of the loss of the blood, he became unconscious the moment he stopped resisting. Puff. He was turned into a blood mist, converged with the blood of Jelly and others, and was finally turned into a drop of black blood. If you make a breakthrough to the Earth realm and had woken up a year or two ago, you would be able to escape, but now you are too weak. Vampires were very powerful, but Hallan Prince's system had a great defect. Every time he woke up, his strength was not at the peak. Although he had broken through to Earth realm, he was still some distance away from his peak level because of this gap. This was also the reason why the vampire ancestor needed to ingest a lot of blood after he woke up. You are not a vampire. How can you cast such an incantation? It's impossible. Hallan Prince lost his temper and there was a crazed light in his eyes. You don't understand it. Jiang Han shook his head slightly, while controlling the drop of blood with his fingers. He said slowly, I'll show you the real Earth realm. Chapter 693, Killing the Princess with One Incantation. Boom. Hearing this, Hallan Prince's eyes trembled and the drop of blood, which was made up of the blood essence of the other people, slowly drifted over to Hallan Prince. This scene was a little slow moving, so the people above the back castle had time to marvel at it. Jiang Han's launching attack and killing of Liu Odyssey and others only lasted more than 10 seconds, and many martial arts grandmasters were stunned. They felt that those people died as soon as they saw Jiang Han. What means did he use? Is he a devil? On the roof of the castle, dozens of members of the Hallan clan were in a state of panic. How did Lord Jelly die? How could he control our ancestor's spell? To what extent has his incantation reached? Why do I feel that he is dark and cruel? Well, before, all 5 of them could not resist the 13 people here. Now merciless Jiang is so cruel that he can kill 12 people with only one move after he reached Divine Realm. These vampires were scared and their bloodless faces turned even more pale. Many of them saw the center of the incantation field and began to shiver, as if they felt the horror. The move. Among the many fighters on the rear side, a martial artist at Grandmaster Peak realized what had happened and roared in a sharp voice and with fear in his eyes, Fire. After hearing what he said, the pilot at the front side quickly picked up the walkie-talkie. Prepare for number 3 new energy missile. Number 1 is ready. Number 2 is ready. Number 3. Although they received the order to attack, they had a preparation process, which took only 20 or 30 seconds. But in this period of time, high-level martial artists could do so much. Under the intense and frightened gazes of all, the drop of blood floated to Hallen Prince. Hallen Prince was suddenly unable to move. It's impossible, you are at Divine Realm. How can you use the powerful mantra? It is so powerful and you have to face the counter-attack. How can you exert it? He kept struggling. Incantations were very powerful, but it was quite simple in practice. If someone used them carelessly, that might come back to bite the martial artist. Only martial artists with tens of years of experience could master them. How old was Jiang Han Yang? Even if he was at Divine Realm, how could he cast this level of incantation? Frogs in the bottom of a well never know how big the world is. Jiang Han's face was calm and his fingers moved forward slightly. The drop of blood drifted slowly to Hallen Prince's forehead. Sizzle. It was like the sound of a drop of water falling into the fire. Hallen Prince felt immense pain and immediately screamed in agony. Hiss. This scared the man in bamboo hat who was at the back and he shivered in the corner. He was also from a branch of vampires, but the bloodline he inherited was darker than that of the Hallen clan. In the face of this high-end incantation, he was powerless and unwilling to resist it. If he did not want to see whether Hallen Prince could resist it or not, and if he did not want to try to escape after the border disappeared, he would explode under such pressure. When things got to this point, he knew that this main body was basically going to be destroyed. How could he be so strong? The man in bamboo hat looked at Jiang Han from the corner of his eyes. He was shocked at the attack intensity and Jiang Han's indifference to the other people and their lives. These two factors made the man in bamboo hat, who had been making trouble in the West, confused. Sizzle. The sound, accompanied by the smoke floating out of Hallen Prince's forehead, once again attracted the man in bamboo hat's attention. Hiss. He took a breath, feeling cold shivers running up his spine. His eyes were fixed on Hallen Prince. The chilling sound lasted for 5 seconds and then a heavy, dull sound came from Hallen Prince's body. Bang! Crack! 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 Hallen Prince's bones seemed to shatter and then remolded. His body height was raised again, from 2 meters to 2.3 meters, 2.5 meters. And slowed down when he reached the height of 3 meters. What's wrong with our ancestor? The people on the roof of the back castle suddenly froze. He's getting bigger. Is this a breakthrough? They did not know if they should be happy at this time. They felt it was a little strange because this kind of promotion was given by the enemy to their ancestor. Buzz. All of a sudden, the wings behind Hallen Prince broke apart and then a brand new, 5-meter set of wide wings appeared. His hands and nails became sharp weapons, his fangs grew longer and his face became even more wrinkled. Ha 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 ha. All of a sudden, Hallen Prince burst into laughter. This is the real Earth realm. At this time, I am the real prince of the vampires. I am too strong. My power, mantra and speed seem to have reached the extreme level. This feeling is so wonderful. Jiang Han Yang, you will pay for your behavior. Now, I want to kill you. It only takes 2 seconds. 1 second to break the mantra and 1 second to kill you. Huh? The eyes of the warlord of Chan clan and the others trembled, because they too felt the energy intensity and fluctuation from Hallen Prince, which were too strong. But as soon as they became a little nervous, Jiang Han said, yes. His tone was as flat as water. Wait a second and you will say it is enough. Jiang Han smiled and thrust his right hand forward at random. Clatter. Suddenly, thousands of red silk threads appeared on the blood-colored cover, which converged into Hallen Prince's body before the others could even blink. Jiang Han explained with practical actions. It was time for them to wake up. Boom, boom, boom. Hallen Prince's chi rose straight up and his power, which was frightening, scattered in all directions. At the back, his own clansmen were suppressed and forced to sprawl on the ground. None of them dared to raise his or her head. His chi was truly horrible. Not enough, not enough, come again. Ha ha, Jiang Han Yang, if I break through again, I will promote you to be a king. Hallan Prince had lost his mind and he was totally immersed in this incredible gain in strength. Both the sky and this land will be under my rule. Hallan, the Prince of Vampire, will dominate the world, and you, Jiang Han Yang, you will only be second to me. Ha ha ha, not enough. Go on. Puff, puff, puff. Hallan Prince started gasping for breath. He felt pain all over his body, as if he had been blown apart by too much stuff. I can bear it. Go on, don't stop. Seeing this scene, Jiang Han's companions, including the warlord of Chan clan, were stunned. What is he doing? Why is he helping his enemy? They could not understand it. Hearing Hallan Prince's words, Jiang Han smiled and replied, as you wish. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Jiang Han's engagement ring on his ring finger lit up slightly and 5 holy objects appeared. In the northern ice field, he acquired 12 holy objects. It was not only a dangerous land, but also a land filled with terrifying treasures. However, the consumption of sacred objects, along with the improvement of Jiang Han's strength, had also speeded up. Swish. The first holy object fell on the blood-colored cover, providing some special energy. It soon converged into Hallan Prince's body. The second, the third, the fifth. After Hallan Prince absorbed a lot of strong energy, his face turned a little ferocious. Stop. Stop. Enough, I don't need any more energy. Stop. Suddenly, at Hallan Prince's feet, a faint blue flame began to burn. Boom. Jiang Han snapped his fingers and colors reappeared in Hallan Prince's eyes. There was fear on his face and he was depressed. His eyes were fixed on Jiang Han Yang and his voice was low and hoarse. Your mantra is invincible in the world. It's unheard of. I've lost the battle, but I won't do you any good. Explode. Prince Harun's eyes shone, but his body did not move amidst his roars. You want to blow yourself up in front of me? It's too late. Jiang Han shook his head slightly. You have a saying that is right. My mantra is incomparable in this world. I can also tell you that your body essence, flesh and everything will be refined into a drop of real blood essence of a vampire. Everyone present was stunned at Jiang Han's words. Gaik Sinkong and all the others opened their eyes wide. My gosh, Jiang Han refined Hallan Prince into a drop of blood? What's that method? The rest of the Hallan clan members slowly raised their heads, but they were too weak to stand up. They were almost scared to death. The man in bamboo hat behind Prince Harun was frightened when he heard Jiang Han's words. Can self-explosion be stopped? I don't believe it. He did not dare to watch the battle any longer. The fierce man in front of him had just refined Hallan Prince. Why was he still looking at this direction? Would he be refined later? However, he did not even have the qualification to be refined by Jiang Han. Explode. The man in bamboo hat roared internally and suddenly found that in this blood cover, he could not control his chi and blood to detonate his meridian and dantian before he died. It's horrible. The man in bamboo hat's body trembled and a short sword appeared in his right hand. He felt that he could not delay any more, but just as he was about to move, he found that thousands of blood threads suddenly appeared on the blood cover and bounded him so tightly that he could not move at all. In just a few seconds, Hallan Prince screamed incessantly. When his head was burning, he looked at Jiang Han with hatred and yelled at him, Jiang Han Yang. His voice was like thunder rolling in all directions. That was his last sentence. Boom. With a dull sound, Hallan Prince no longer existed. Only a palm-sized, crystal-clear drop of red blood was left. This drop of blood emitted the chi of a divine object. The man in bamboo hat's eyes turned blood red after he saw it, showing his desire for it. Jiang Han waved his right hand and the drop of blood came into his own pocket. It's your turn. Jiang Han looked at the man in bamboo hat who could not get any benefits. In the face of the crisis, the man in bamboo hat suddenly laughed. You can't kill me, Jiang Han Yang, although you are strong, my soul will not die and my body will never die. There is enough duplication of my body that you will not be able to find them all at the same time. When I appear next time, you will be killed." Jiang Han did not reply to his cruel speech, but looked at Gai Xingkong. "Uncle Gai, you can kill him twice, once the flesh, once the soul. When his soul is killed, it will be the real death for him." Okay. Gai Xingkong showed a ferocious smile at the corners of his mouth and there was hatred in his eyes. He held a dragon tiger spear and flew to the blood cover. After he arrived, a gap opened in the blood cover and when he went in, the blood curtain closed again. "It's time to pay off your debt of blood, man in bamboo hat." Gai Xingkong's words were filled with hate. It was as if all the accumulated burden and hatred of the years were contained in this simple sentence. Glang! The dragon tiger spear was thrust slowly into the man in bamboo hat's chest. Puff! With a slight sound, the body of the man in bamboo hat could not bear the power of the dragon tiger spear and was instantly destroyed. You can never kill me. After his last sentence, the man in bamboo hat controlled a little energy in his body and accelerated the decomposition. Clatter! The bamboo hat turned into a sort of light, which dissipated slowly along with his body. A gust of wind blew and nothing could be seen on the field. Appear! There was a flash of light in Jiang Han's eyes. The blood color suddenly covered the whole area and a transparent shadow appeared and then many blood colors turned into ropes, which bound the shadow firmly. It was the soul of the man in bamboo hat. Die. Gai Xingkong gathered a mass of spiritual sense energy into the tip of his spear and stabbed angrily at the soul. Sizzle, 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 squeak. It seemed that the man in bamboo hat was about to shout, but no sound emerged. The shadow gradually faded and finally disappeared. "Let's go," the aged martial artist said. With a wave of his right hand, Jiang Han gathered a great deal of spiritual force and formed a 100-meter-long hand with the combination of the blood cover. Kaboom! He slapped in the direction of the castle. All the buildings, along with Harrow and the other family members, were destroyed. In the face of this scene, the expressions of the warlord of Chan clan and the others did not change. It was the most basic and simple truth to eliminate the root causes and leave no room for future trouble. Gai Xingkong floated by silently. He used to hate the man in bamboo hat, but when he finally got his revenge, he found that he was still not happy. It was the thought of his family members, the relief after the end of this matter and the pressure he vented and so on, which made everything complicated. He felt a little empty, but the feeling did not last for long. Bang, 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 bang. A series of muffled noises came from behind. When everyone looked back, they saw dozens of huge warheads flying toward the battlefield. After rising into the sky, they were like fireworks, turning into thousands of small warheads, like a meteor shower, covering the surrounding area and leaving no blind spots. In the face of such a majestic attack, the warlord of Chan clan could not resist all of them. This was the horror of modern weapons. "Can you block him? Hold him off for 10 seconds and we can escape." Jiwa Shuang looked at Jiang Han. They all knew that only Jiang Han understood the powerful moves which had such wide coverage. Bang, 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 bang. A second round of attack was launched by the enemy. Obviously, Jiang Han would not let anyone off. "If I try my best, I can only block about 30% of the attacks." Chen Chenking shook his head slightly. "We are subject to 70% of the attack, so it will be a very difficult problem which will last for quite some time. Brother Han, do you have any solution?" "Yes," Jiang Han responded. Jiang Han turned around slightly. Clatter! The suffocating spiritual sense of energy swept toward the direction of the distant fighters. 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers. These fighters were about 25 kilometers away and Divine Realm martial artists could not cover such distance instantly. but they had the most advanced unmanned reconnaissance aircraft and everything could be explored. But they did not expect that before their first round of attack arrived. Kaboom! All the missiles that were fired detonated at a high altitude, as if they had turned into real fireworks. At this moment, the Earth was illuminated. Who gave the order? Why did they detonate before they reached the destination? The commander was furious. As soon as he finished speaking, his body trembled, his eyesight faded and he fell to the ground and stopping breathing. This happened to all the fighters. At the moment their missiles exploded, all the fighters dropped and crashed rapidly. Let's go, Zhang Han said and took the lead to fly to the city where their plane landed. At the same time, in the combat readiness room of a theater, the picture on the screen was a scene of the plane crash. Sizzle. The screen turned white. The commander's face darkened. Sir, they were 25.4 kilometers away from their destination just now. Before the crash, Zhang Han Yang sent out something with an intensity as high American Samoa 99900 MSCSAD. He was able to threaten the area within 30 miles. What did you say? The commander slammed the table. Tell the fire troop to stop those damned villains. However, before the order was given, all of a sudden, a rush of footsteps sounded at the door. Seeing the leading person, the commander quickly stood up to salute him, and his face changed. He was confronted with a stern question. Who told you to send out shadow hunters, 40 fighters? Do you know how much we're going to lose? Not just money, all the elite who have been trained for many years. It was you who killed them. Pa. A loud slap in the face. The handsome man pointed to the commander's nose and roared angrily. Do you know that we are going to be the biggest laughingstock in the world? Do you know how much pressure we have to face? Why should we intervene in the affairs of the martial artists? Did you get benefits from Fergus? Take him away. Several people behind him took the ashen-faced commander out. As a matter of fact, many people could imagine that some high-level leaders acquiesced the dispatch of elite troops. However, the collapse of the Hallen family and the death of Fergus made these people feel nervous. There were always some people to be held accountable. As it happened, this handsome man was one of them, otherwise, he would not be so angry. Fortunately, his position was high enough. Despite the losses incurred, he was still safe. Some people would be taken away for trial. No matter what happened on the other side, Zhang Han and his 4 companions flew all the way back. When they got to the airport, Zhang Han shook his head and said, "They are afraid of us." That's the right choice. The warlord of Chan clan sighed and said, in fact, Fergus and the other officials should not have come. Just like Yi Danlang, not intervening was the wisest choice. Once they intervene in our matters, it will only become more and more intense. However, it is rare to see someone make a comeback like you. The warlord of Chan clan rarely praised others, but he admired Zhang Han so much. After hearing this, Chen Chengqing laughed happily. Ha ha ha, my brother Han is unique in the world. Chapter 694, It's time to go back. Zhang Han, you are now at Divine Realm and your means and strength are better than ours. You are really powerful. Jiwash Wang made a gesture of praise to Zhang Han. They were all convinced by Zhang Han, because all the difficulties had been solved by Zhang Han so easily. His strength was somewhat amazing. Ha ha. Gai Xinkong chuckled and patted Zhang Han on the shoulder. I'm proud of you for your father's sake. When Guan Yu comes back, I'm afraid he will be stunned to see his son as a master at Divine Realm. Zhang Han grinned. He will be proud of me. Then Zhang Han shook his head. I'm just a fake Divine Realm martial artist. Fake? All the others were surprised. The warlord of Chan clan asked, what do you mean by fake Divine Realm? They had never heard of this stage. Generally speaking, after breakthrough, they would reach the early stage of Divine Realm or the middle stage if their breakthrough was perfect. What was this stage known as fake Divine Realm? It means that I temporarily broke into Divine Realm. After I go back, I will control my cultivation to drop and I will be weak for about 7 days. Jiang Han answered casually. In these 2 battles, these people kept fighting for him regardless of their own safety. Birds of a feather flock together in groups. No matter if it was the warlord of Chan clan or Jiwash Wang, they were free and outgoing people who followed their original intention. Jiang Han did not want to hide anything from them. As for Gai Xingkong and Chen Chenking, they were Jiang Han's family members. Hearing Jiang Han's words, Chen Chenking was surprised. Why did you not take this opportunity to make a real breakthrough? Because I want to give it a try and feel what it will be like to break through after reaching the extreme. Jiang Han's words moved the others. They did not expect that Jiang Han's ambition was so great that he even had to suppress such strength and wait for the ideal time to break through. This kind of disposition was admirable. In their eyes, Jiang Han was only 27 years old. He was not arrogant and impetuous at such a young age, which was amazing. If he's like everyone else. Jiwash Wang shook his head slightly. I'm afraid he will choose to break into Divine Realm and then he can go out and show off and fight with others. Jiang Han smiled and did not reply. Although he had a good relationship with them, Jiang Han felt that there was no need to tell them everything. Of course, Jiang Han would not brag that he had been reborn so as not to frighten the others. If he had such a character, he might not even survive for 3 days in the cultivation world. From the corner of the airport, they walked to their plane. There were many black cars around the plane. Some cold-faced men dressed in black suits were walking around. Oh, are they going to see us off? Jiwash Wang's eyes narrowed slightly, seeing them walking toward the plane. A middle-aged man headed over with a trace of respect on his face. Distinguished Eastern guests, your flight is ready for departure at any time. Are you so anxious to see us leave? What if we want to stay here for a few days? Jiwash Wang smiled. The other side was a little at a loss, but he reacted quickly and paused for just 1 second before he said, we welcome you very much. If our distinguished guests want to stay here for a few days, we can arrange all the itineraries in 3 minutes, including hotel, restaurants, tourist attractions, if you wish to. He spoke with a professional smile and no one could find fault with what he said. Jiang Han did not want to waste time here. He moved and walked directly to the entrance of the plane. Chen Qingqing and the others followed them and Jiwash Wang stopped talking nonsense. He gazed intently at the man and turned around to get on the plane. Soon, the plane took off. Jiwash Wang was silent for a few minutes and said, I have just carefully observed their eyes and every move. I don't see anything unusual, but do you think they will use some lethal weapons to kill us on the way? There is a saying which goes like this, don't harm others, but be alert to others. Everyone present had this sense of safety. The warlord of Chan clan was not surprised to hear Jiwash Wang's words. He pondered for 2 seconds and said, there is a possibility. After all, we have destroyed 40 of their fighters. No one knows how their senior management will react. However, if they want to intercept us, there will be more troops to send out. They may not have such determination. We're not targets and it's still very rare. Gai Xingkong waved his hand. Don't worry, they dare not. At this time, Jiang Han's words were very reassuring. They knew how far away they were before and how they were destroyed. How far was the extension of Jiang Han's soul sense when he was at innateness and had 8,000 clouds? Very far. The energy intensity that could extend to 30 kilometers was just what Jiang Han wanted them to see. Hearing this, Gai Xingkong and others looked at each other with a smile. In fact, they wondered why Jiang Han's soul sense was so powerful, but they would never ask about such private matters. Jiang Han flew out of England safely and the local authorities did not make any comments. It was as if they thought that they were so unlucky because they had lost a lot of money, but could not do anything about it. It was bad news for a lot of people and it was terrible for the people who were in charge of it. The plane flew gradually eastward and they soon saw the sun which rose rapidly. When they arrived at the airport behind the company, it was already noon. 90% of Jiang Han's trip time was spent on the road, and killing Liu Odissi and others did not take up too much of his time. During their flight back, although some people did not want to talk about the incident, the news still spread quietly. Ha 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 ha, it's so funny that they only used one group of fighters to deal with 5 famous martial artists at Divine Realm. The top officials in many countries could not stop laughing. If they had the determination to do it, then they should have used more powerful weapons that could help them to win the battle. Their loss must be heartbreaking for many people. It is said that there is also trouble within their group. The relevant personnel colluded with Fergus and others, and eventually they were all killed. It is said that Jiang Han of Hua Nation single-handedly destroyed 40 of the latest generation of fighters. After laughing for a while, they began discuss this matter seriously. Jiang Han can attack an area 25 kilometers away. I'm afraid many powerful people at Earth Realm can't do this. How did he do it? He is a great threat to the army, and I don't know whether this is his limit. If the distance is longer, many weapons will be useless. Jiang Han list this name as one of the most dangerous in the world. Inform the relevant departments of Hua Nation that they must give advance notice according to the contract if someone like Jiang Han and Emperor King goes abroad. Don't worry too much. After all, the world lit is about to open up, and our official martial artists will also come out. At that time, even if Jiang Han is at Divine Realm, he cannot make much waves. In many countries, a lot of discussion were carried out, and many departments held special meetings for this purpose. Jiang Han was now a threat to them, but when the gate of the small world was opened, the threat would be greatly reduced. That was to say, they cared about it, but were not overly concerned. In the martial arts world, the news was somewhat different. Oh my god, it took Jiang Han only 2 days to kill all the people who attacked his territory? How fast his revenge is. The man in bamboo hat, who is hard to kill, is also dead. What is terrible is the destruction of the Halan clan. My god, even Halan Prince was defeated by him. Perhaps the reason why the martial arts world in Hua Nation is flourishing is because there are too many talents like Emperor King and Jiang Han. It's a pity that our country does not even have a world lit, and our resources and the number of martial artists are far lesser than theirs. Among them, the most vibrant was the Wudao world in Hua Nation, in which many people were cheering for Jiang Han's victory. Merciless Jiang, Emperor King. Everyone was expressing their admiration for these 2 young people. In fact, too many of them had not met Jiang Han and Emperor King, and they were looking forward to witnessing their battle one day. Although the Japanese martial artists were also shocked, many of them felt more depressed. Shoichi Shimamoto, our saber master, was killed by Jiang Han. In a manner, a middle-aged man looked at a large number of teenagers and said in a serious voice, Jiang Han, known as Merciless Jiang, is ruthless and has killed almost all his enemies. He took several powerful people to the west, destroyed the Halan clan, killed Halan Prince, and in total 14 Divine Realm Masters, including the man in bamboo hat and Liu Odissi. Jiang Han, is he strong? In the face of this question, these young men and girls did not know how to answer, but one of the dull little boys directly nodded and roared, yes, he is strong. Yes, he is strong. The middle-aged man nodded. Then he looked at the direction of Hua Nation and said slowly, so, if you want to get your revenge, you must be more evil than Jiang Han. So you have to practice 10 times and even 100 times harder than before. I hope that one day, I can witness the scene of your dominating the world. As for the inheritance of Saber Master, I'll teach you from tomorrow onward. This kind of situation was still very rare. They seemed to have forgotten why Shoichi Shimamoto, the Saber Master, and that secret disappearance went to Mount New Moon. At this time, it was already noon and sunny in Hua Nation. When Jiang Han and his plane landed slowly at the company's airport, they saw a small group of people standing at the side. The first one was Xian with sunglasses and a cap. Her hair was tied in a ponytail and she wore black tights, which outlined her long straight legs and hips. She looked sexy as always. Besides, she was wearing white skate shoes and a white casual t-shirt. Next to her, there were as if in a sports suit, Zhang Li, Zhao Feng, Hu, Liang Hao and Liang Mengkai. They all knew what had taken place before and were so excited. They heard that the plane was about to arrive, and since they had nothing to do, they decided to meet Zhang Han. People around Meng Meng Group were used to the luxury motorcade. There were more motorcades today and everyone was wondering which famous person they were going to pick up. It was obvious, by the way they were welcoming Zhang Han's triumphant return. Seeing Zhang Han, Ziyan smiled and strode happily toward him. Ziyan had recovered in just 2 days. When she came near, she said in her enchanting voice, "Sweetheart." Hiss. Although this was not deliberately coquettish, Ziyan's natural and beautiful voice made many bachelors yearn to be hers. Yes. Zhang Han smiled gently. Seeing Ziyan's action, he stretched out his arms and hugged her. Zif turned her eyes and said, "King. Chen King." The warlord of Chan clan almost lost his balance in astonishment. He kept looking at Chen King and Zuf. Their relationship has developed to this degree? The aged man was confused. Grandfather Chen. Zuf ended the prank and greeted him politely. "Oh, fine." The warlord of Chan clan nodded with a smile. As for Chen King's marriage plans, he did not intend to interfere in it before. Now he found that the girl was Ziyan's good friend, which satisfied and relieved him. However, there were still some things he wanted to ask. The warlord of Chan clan looked at Chen King. His lips moved slightly as he said something in a secret method. Swish. All of a sudden, Chen King's expression froze. He was embarrassed and looked at his grandfather in a strange way. Cough. The warlord of Chan clan coughed slightly and left directly. Chen King's facial muscles quivered. "What did your grandfather say to you?" Zif knew that the warlord of Chan clan must have said something, otherwise Chen King would not have that kind of expression. She was curious and wanted to know, so she fixed her eyes on Chen King. Under her steady stare and burning with embarrassment, Chen King whispered in Zif's ear, "Grandfather asked us if we used safety precautions. He said we don't have to do it. He wants us to have a baby earlier." Swish, swish, swish. In an instant, Gai Xingkong, Jiwash Wang, Zhao Feng and all the others turned their gazes on them. Zif's face turned red and she was shocked. She looked at Chen King in astonishment, then looked at the back of the aged man and stamped her feet. "We only kissed each other. We haven't done that yet, this dirty old man." Even Zhang Han looked at Chen King teasingly, which made him smile awkwardly. It was rare to see Chen King being so embarrassed. Some people once said that when looking at those celebrities from afar, you would feel that they were very powerful. When you looked at them closely, they were all ordinary people. At this time, they felt that Emperor King, who seemed so out of reach at the beginning, was also very human. With a burst of laughter, everyone got into the car. The motorcade slowly went back to Mount New Moon and stopped outside the restaurant. During the feast, they opened a lot of expensive red wine to celebrate their victory. After lunch, Zhang Han accompanied Ziyan for a walk on the mountain for nearly an hour, chatting about private matters. Then they saw the warlord of Chan clan and Gai Xingkong. "Little Han, I have nothing to do now. I have to go back to the northeast." Gai Xingkong said, "Well, let's go together. I'll leave Chen King here. Little Han, take care of him." The warlord of Chan clan said politely, "We are happy to have him here." Ziyan smiled. Zhang Han nodded his head and asked, "Has Feng arranged the flight?" "Yes, everything is ready." Gai Xingkong laughed and said with emotion, "Your parents might be back the next time we meet. I'll make your father drunk. Don't blame Uncle Gai." Ha 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 ha. Zhang Han chuckled and shook his head. "If you want to make my father drunk, Uncle Gai, you should practice more frequently." "Oh, I haven't done that before. I'll let you know next time." Gai Xingkong shook his head. "Let's stop here. See you, Uncle Gai and Elder Chen." Xian waved her hand. Under their gazes, the warlord of Chan Clan and Gaik Sing Kong flew into the air and disappeared slowly. They would take the plane to Shangjing, northeast, and then return. Less than half an hour after they left, Chen Chenking arrived at the back mountain. Zhang Han said to Xian, "Go and watch TV with Fei Fei. I will cultivate for 1 to 2 hours." Oh. Xian blinked her beautiful big eyes, but did not ask anything. When Chen Chenking approached, they strolled back to the castle. "Are you badly injured?" The smile on Chen Chenking's face dissipated. He looked at Zhang Han and asked, "The world lit is about to open in half a month. You are seriously injured this time. If you can't recover, I'll recover in about 7 days." Zhang Han sighed, "It's not the time to break through now. Let's wait until the opening of the gate of the small world and act according to circumstances." "Okay." Chen Chenking nodded. "Let's go to the back mountain. Let's go to some place nearby." Zhang Han took a look at the direction of the east side of Mount New Moon and flew there. During this period, they saw Wang Zanping, who was constantly studying Soul Gathering Flag, and Wang Zanhong and Wang Ming's disciples who were studying 100 Formation Image. They said hello to Zhang Han and Chen Chenking and were curious about what they were going to do, but they did not choose to follow the two strong men. After all, it was very safe in the mountain after all that they had gone through. At the top of the mountain nearby, Zhang Han stood under an old tree. He did not say anything, and the strong qi surrounding his body swirled about a meter around him. Boom! A dull sound seemed to explode in Zhang Han's body. Puff! A blood mist drifted out of Zhang Han's body and his qi dropped in a straight line. Grandmaster Peak, Grandmaster Late Stage. It was not until his cultivation dropped to that of Grandmaster Middle Stage that he stopped slowly. Zhang Han brought out his 4th stage spirit treasure, a white apple-like fruit, and took it directly. His violent qi gradually calmed down. Chen Chenking was shocked by this scene. It was not until Zhang Han stopped at Grandmaster Middle Stage that Chen Chenking suddenly realized that even though Brother Han was well prepared for this trip to the west, the cost was also very high. He was badly injured. Brother Han is cruel to the enemy and to himself. Chen Chenking was surprised. It was too scary for Zhang Han to drop directly from Divine Realm. He admired Zhang Han's decisive style, because ordinary people could not give up that fascinating power, even if they could just own it for a few days. However, Chen Chenking was soon stunned. The holy fruit taken by Zhang Han combined with his qi and blood and helped to promote his strength from Grandmaster Middle Stage. Clatter! The wind was blowing around, and it was actually Zhang Han's raging spiritual qi. Grandmaster Middle Stage, 10%, 20%, 30%. In less than 2 hours, Zhang Han's strength returned to Grandmaster Peak. What's going on? Chen Chenking suddenly frowned. He felt that although Brother Han's strength had recovered, his injury had not healed yet. Did he hurt his foundation? Chapter 695. What's this weird thing? In the martial arts world, the youngest martial artists were 10 years old, or even 6 to 7 years old. There was always a period for them to get familiar with the martial arts world. Generally speaking, when they were 20 years old, they started to show up, and until they were about 35 years old, they were always called martial artists of the young generation. They were what people often called strong people of the times, and they were in leading positions among their peers. At North Tiger Gaik Sing Kong's time, he achieved that in his 30s. The well-known Emperor King had been in the peak position since he became famous. He won the throne as one of the best young men with lightning speed. Later, he became an important martial artist. The recognition of the name of Emperor King had already explained a lot. However, Chen Chenking suddenly found that since he and Brother Han got together, he had been admiring Zhang Han for his knowledge, and there were many problems he didn't understand. It was like in the Northern Ice Field, when the Ice Wolf Wang Vern and his gang faced the ghosts and wanted to kill their way out. Emperor King followed Zhang Han, who was as relaxed as wandering in the courtyard. and even refined a divine weapon. After passing through the ghost area, they seemed to be invisible. They went to the land with 2 winged tiger statues and refined another divine weapon, which was left in the relics. After a few days, Jiang Han returned and went to the west. He acquainted powerful Han Prince there and refined that man into a drop of blood essence. This was inconceivable. It could be imagined that if the sleeping vampire princes knew it, they would feel cold on their backs. Why should a vampire as powerful as a prince become someone else's dish? Chen Chenking also felt that he knew too little, at least compared with Brother Han. Why did he know so much? Chen Chenking couldn't understand. Now, he couldn't understand the situation or help with anything. He could only worry about it. After a while, Chen Chenking turned his eyes at Mount New Moon, and he could only see a little scenery of the back mountain. There was a large area of planting area, as well as the handsome Thunder Yang tree. The polycrystalline blue plant on the right was Thunder Yang flower. In fact, it doesn't matter if we give them the divine object. Thinking of the battle that day, Chen Chenking shook his head slightly. But the man in bamboo hat is too greedy. How can we make concessions about Xian and Meng Meng? Feeling bored, Chen Chenking began to recall what happened today. It was Chen Chenking's habit to do self-examination many times a day in his spare time. Talents were not really amazing, and what was more amazing was that they still made more efforts. While he was thinking about it, a weak voice came from behind. "What's the time?" Swish. Chen Chenking looked back and saw Jiang Han's pale face. He was slowly standing up supported by the tree behind him, and his arms were shaking. Seeing this, Chen Chenking rushed to help Jiang Han up. "Why are you so weak? Do you need some pills or something? It doesn't work. What time is it?" Jiang Han's lips were pale, and he asked again. Chen Chenking glanced at his watch. "Now it's 3:55 p.m. We reached here at 1:05 p.m. and you've been sitting here for nearly 3 hours. Oh, hiss." Jiang Han took a deep breath. "Help me back to the mountain. It's time to pick up Meng Meng from school." "Ah?" Chen Chenking thought he didn't hear Jiang Han clearly, so he asked, "You need a rest now? I'll go to pick up Meng Meng. Besides, you look so weak now, and my sister-in-law and Meng Meng will worry about you." Jiang Han's face was so sickly that he seemed to be dying at any time. "It's okay, I'll be better after a short rest," Jiang Han replied stubbornly. "Why do you bother with that?" Chen Chenking forced a smile. "It's just a petty thing. It's nothing more than picking up Meng Meng from school. In fact, Zhao Feng and anyone else can do it for you. It's not that you will never see her. When Meng Meng comes back, you can get together." Upon hearing Chen Chenking's words, Jiang Han shook his head slightly and gave a weak smile. No, I promised Meng Meng that I would pick her up after school today. I had broken my promise a few days ago. I hope that was the only time in my life. Boom. Chen Chenking's hand suddenly trembled along with his heart. Father. He thought of the figure he had been in contact with for a short time when he was young. Unfortunately, his memory was a little vague. He knew that without the parents' company in one's childhood, what kind of change it would bring to him or her, it was an incomplete life. It was precisely because of Jiang Han that Chen Chenking's personality gradually changed, and it was precisely because of these reasons that Jiang Han was quite important for him. "I'll go with you." Chen Chenking withdrew his thoughts and smiled at Jiang Han. Then he supported Jiang Han on the back with his right hand and flew back to Mount New Moon. When you have a child, you may know what it feels like. Jiang Han looked at the castle and saw Zhif and Xian sitting on the balcony on the 4th floor. They were drinking cold drinks. Jiang Han thought about it and said, "Slow down, give me 5 minutes." "Okay." Chen Chenking landed directly in the dense forest in the back mountain. Woof, 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 woof. 2 voices were heard. Whoosh. Soon, a black shadow quickly jumped over, which was Little High at high speed. It was originally very happy, but when it suddenly saw Jiang Han, its big tail swayed down directly, then it leaned towards Jiang Han and sniffed him constantly. Oh! As if feeling its weak master, Little Hai made a deep cry. Jiang Han was amused. He reached for Little Hai's head and said, "I am fine. It seems that you are going to reach the middle stage. Are you going to run out of your gems?" Oh. Little Hai was a little guilty. It was becoming more and more human. "I'll give you more when you eat them up." Hearing Jiang Han's words, Little Hai wagged his tail slightly. Ooh, 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 ooh. Dai came to this side, sat in front of Jiang Han, made a few gestures, and pointed to Chen Chenking. "Whoa, whoa, whoa, master. Has this silly boy bullied you? I'll beat him." Little Hai understood it. Its tail stopped moving at once. "Beat Chen Chenking? You can do it yourself." Jiang Han could understand Dai's gestures, but Chen Chenking, who hadn't lived in Mount New Moon for a long time, did not understand them and was still smiling. "Brother Han, your two spirit beasts are very good. Whoa, 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 whoa. They're very human and smart. Whoa, 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 whoa." Chen Chenking finally sensed the strange atmosphere. "Brother Han, what do its gestures mean?" "Well, nothing." Jiang Han's mouth trembled. He stretched out his right hand and patted Dai's forehead. "Don't be naughty." Dai scratched its head with no more pranks. "I got some good things back this time, but they're more suitable for Dai. Little Hai, I'll give you a good present next time," said Jiang Han. The drop of blood essence was made from Halan Prince and many holy objects. It would bring qualitative changes to Dai's body. However, Jiang Han still planned to wait for his recovery in a few days. The two guys were happy each time they got Jiang Han's gift. Although there was no gift for Little Hai this time, it was still hopping happily. With these guys around, 5 minutes passed quickly. Jiang Han's face recovered a little, and his lips were no longer pale. He just looked as if he could lie on the ground at any time. Now he looked like he had a cold or fever. He was much better. "It will be late if we don't go. Let's go," said Jiang Han. Chen Chenking took Jiang Han's arm and walked quickly up the mountain. When they came near the Thunder Yang tree, Xian and Zif saw them. "You are back." Jiang Han raised his head and asked, "I'm going to pick Meng Meng up. Are you going with me?" "Yes, wait for me." Xian replied and rushed into her room. Within 2 minutes, Xian and Zuf appeared at the door of the first floor. Chen Chenking looked at the little panda car next to them. He took over Jiang Han's key. They all went to the car. Chen Chenking drove, Zif sat in the front passenger seat, and Xian as well as Jiang Han were in the back seat. When she got on the car, Xian watched Jiang Han closely, and her face suddenly changed. "What's the matter with you?" "Nothing serious." Jiang Han chuckled. "I'm a little bit weak now." "Of course not that kind of weakness. I'll recover in a few days." Xian was still worried, and Zuf turned to look at them. Chen Chenking helped Jiang Han to explain, "It's common for us martial artists to get hurt. Brother Han was not seriously wounded, and it's just a part of his cultivation. He'll be fine in a few days." He would not, of course, tell the fact that Brother Han was unable to stand steadily just now. After hearing their explanations, Xian was slightly relieved but was still a little worried. When they set out, it was 4:05 p.m. Without Jiang Han's order, Chen Chenking drove at high speed, but the car was very stable. 20 minutes later, they arrived at St. Kindergarten. Jiang Han and Xian get off the car. Out of habit, Xian still wore a cap. They walked into the campus hand in hand, and soon, classes were over. "Papa." The little girl's clear and crisp voice sounded, which made many parents look towards them. Oh, this beautiful little girl again. Many people subconsciously turned around and looked at Meng Meng's good-looking parents from behind. Only a few of the other parents knew that Meng Meng's mother was Xian, the famous star. There were various kinds of gossip about her having a daughter with a talent named Han Yang. Many people questioned it, and more people didn't believe it. There was always so much gossip about stars. As for other stars, occasionally paparazzi would release some pieces of confirmed news, but for Xian, they couldn't get any convincing information. In fact, Jiang Han and Xian had been photographed several times at the school gate, but no one dared to disclose their photos. Under the gaze of these people, Meng Meng ran quickly and threw herself into Jiang Han's arms. "Papa." After hugging Jiang Han happily, Meng Meng pouted, "Papa, you were not at home in the morning?" And Meng Meng cried. "Ah?" Jiang Han touched the little girl's pink face and said, "Now that Dad said I would come back to pick you up today, I would not let you down. I'll be with you tomorrow morning, the day after tomorrow, and 3 days from now." Meng Meng, "Look, Dad has done what he said. Do you want to praise him?" Xian said with a smile. "Okay." Meng Meng kissed Jiang Han. "Mew. Ha ha ha." Jiang Han smiled happily because of Meng Meng's kiss. Then Meng Meng stretched out her little hands again. "Papa, Mama, I get a little red flower again. Wow, you are so good. You get little red flowers as soon as you go to school. It's so great." Jiang Han was happy from the bottom of his heart, and his tone was inevitably exaggerated. Meng Meng was pleased by her papa's praise. She kept smiling and couldn't stop it. "Let's go home. Papa will make delicious food for my smart daughter." Jiang Han and Xian held Meng Meng and left school under the other parents' gaze. This time, the three of them sat in the back seat. Although the car had been refitted, the space inside was still small and crowded with 3 adults in it. But for Jiang Han's family of 3, Meng Meng's sitting in the middle turned into a scene of happiness. "Hello, Uncle King and Auntie Fei Fei." Meng Meng greeted the other 2 after getting on the car. "Well, we missed Meng Meng, so we came to see you." Chen Chengqing laughed while driving. "I don't miss Uncle King," said Meng Meng. Chen Chengqing almost stepped on the brake by mistake. "Why? I miss my papa and mama." Meng Meng squeezed into Jiang Han's arms. Under the influence of Jiang Han, Meng Meng's character seemed to be developing in the direction of that of a strange-tempered elf. Emily, who used to be shy, no longer existed. "Ha ha, yes, it's enough to miss Mom and Dad." Jiang Han couldn't stop laughing. When he was laughing, he felt a burning sensation in his body and wanted to cough, but he held it back. It didn't feel good to be injured, but only when he was injured would he know how wonderful being healthy was. They went back to the mountain, chatting and laughing. Chen Chengqing and Zif didn't intend to go. They were going to have dinner cooked by Jiang Han himself. Originally, Chen Chengqing knew Jiang Han's state, so he proposed to eat in the public restaurant, but Jiang Han still wanted to make the dinner himself. Eventually, Chen Chengqing became Jiang Han's assistant. He went back to the mountain to kill a chicken and take the ingredients. When Chen Chengqing returned to the kitchen, he had removed the chicken's feathers. Jiang Han was amused by him and asked, "Why did you do it yourself? I'm your assistant." Chen Chengqing smiled. "Tonight, I'll make fried chicken wings, braised pork feet, sweet potato cake, roasted chicken skin, and steak for dinner. One chicken has only 2 wings." Chen Chengqing trembled at the corners of his mouth and retreated. "I'll go there again." The second time he came back, Chen Chengqing took 12 chicken wings, 6 big pig feet, 5 sweet potatoes, and a large steak. "It must be enough this time," Chen Chengqing said. "Yes." Jiang Han began to prepare in the kitchen. The kitchen was big enough to allow several dishes to be made simultaneously. Chen Chengqing kept shaking his head. "I didn't expect that you are really good at cooking, Brother Han. When you have children, you will be good at cooking too." "Ha, I don't know when I'll have children, just let it go. Anyway, I have a good relationship with Fei Fei. I respect her ideas in this respect. It depends. While chatting, Jiang Han cooked while Meng Meng came in from time to time. It was okay at first. After the smell of the dishes filled the whole kitchen, Meng Meng came in again and murmured, "Papa, I'm hungry. Try the fried chicken wings first, we can have dinner in 10 minutes. "No," Mama said. It was impolite. "Why is it impolite? You are in our own home. Try it." Jiang Han used his poor spiritual force to cool down a chicken wing and handed it to Meng Meng so that she wouldn't feel uncomfortable while holding it in her hand. The chicken wing was crispy outside and soft inside. Both the fragrant cortex and the gelatinous chicken wing meat made Meng Meng praise him repeatedly. It's delicious. Papa is the most powerful. The dinner was very sumptuous, with a large table of dishes and 2 bottles of red wine. They had dinner together in the restaurant on the 5th floor. They could have eaten more slowly, but after Meng Meng finished eating, Jiang Han accompanied her to play, so the other people's speed increased. Let's go, elder sister Yan, let's play with them. Zif took Ziyan's hand and walked out of the restaurant, leaving Chen Qingqing at the table. He stretched out his hand. Well, should I wash the dishes? Well, Emperor King was now reduced to washing dishes. Fortunately, Chen Qingqing could save a lot of effort using his skills. His fingers moved, and he cleaned up the table in a minute. They played until 9:30 p.m., and Zif and Chen Qingqing went out for a walk. Ziyan and Meng Meng were lying on the bed, listening to Jiang Han's story as usual. After a while, Meng Meng fell asleep. Jiang Han gently put Meng Meng on her small bed, tucked her in, and went back to the big bed to give Ziyan a hug. This time, Jiang Han slept soundly. He was hurt and tired, and Chen Qingqing's protection made him feel at ease. This was the first day. On the next day, Jiang Han looked much better. On the third day, he looked as fine as usual from the appearance. So in the afternoon when there was no one else in the castle, "No, you're not recovered yet, bad guy, It was obvious that something cheerful had happened. But on the 4th day, after sending Meng Meng to school in the morning and returning to the castle, Ziyan sat on the chair on the balcony on the 3rd floor. She looked worried as she stared at her abdomen. Jiang Han gave her a bottle of cold drink and asked with a smile, "What's the matter, sweetheart? I seem to be pregnant." "Ah?" Jiang Han was stunned and quickly sat up to check her body. "No. Why do I feel sick then? What's wrong?" Jiang Han asked in a hurry. "Here." Ziyan lifted her t-shirt, showed Jiang Han her stomach, and pointed to the side of her abdomen. "This is the position of your dantian. How do you feel now?" Jiang Han looked at Ziyan seriously. "Just a little cool, and then it appeared here. This little black thing has been here for so many days and has not disappeared." Ziyan stretched out her right arm, where there was a black mark like a tadpole. It was darker than before. This. Jiang Han was silent and fixed his eyes on it. Before he could say anything, it seemed to move. "Am I sick?" Ziyan was shocked. It didn't move. Jiang Han looked more serious, and he kept piercing that mark with his soul sense. However, he couldn't find anything special with the little black spot. "Try to concentrate on the position of your lower abdomen and the position of your arms." "Okay," Ziyan replied without hesitation. But Jiang Han knew she was still nervous from her eyes. "Take a deep breath. Go ahead and concentrate. Close your eyes, don't think about anything, and try to feel your dantian and right arm." 1 minute later, Ziyan pursed her lips and answered, I can't feel it." Jiang Han was also confused. What happened next stunned him. Ziyan shook her right arm and said in a dull tone, "What's this? Why are you on my arm? Can you leave my body?" Boom! With a slight sound, a black shadow slipped down from Ziyan's right arm and landed on the ground in front of them. Buzz! Jiang Han sprang to his feet in astonishment. "What's this weird thing?" Chapter 696, Ziyan's Rock. A whale, which seemed to have shrunk many times, was floating at Ziyan's feet. The creature, seemingly clever, was dark and shiny with big eyes. Its small wings on both sides were relatively much larger than those of whales. Its mouth was not closed tightly, and it seemed as if it was grinning. A creature was thrown out of my arm. At this moment, Ziyan was extremely surprised. Although this thing was a little cute, Ziyan had goosebumps all over her body because she was a little scared. As if feeling the emotion of Ziyan, the little creature opened its mouth and called twice. "Coo, coo." Xian grabbed Jiang Han's arm with her right hand and asked in fear, "What is it? This?" Jiang Han's facial expression was frozen. He stood up and walked around the little creature twice. No matter how he examined the creature with his strong soul sense, he could not find out any information, as if it was a bottomless pit. However, the creature didn't care about Jiang Han's examination at all. It looked at Xian with round eyes and swayed its tail slightly. "COO, COO." It called again. "Sweetheart, what is it saying to me? What does it mean?" Xian was stiff and motionless, but her eyes turned to Jiang Han beside her. "You seem to be its master." Jiang Han frowned slightly and said, "Ask it to drop its guard and relax a bit." After hearing this, Xian was a little nervous. She looked at the little creature beside her leg and said with hesitation, "Relax, don't be on guard." "COO, COO." The creature didn't seem to understand her at all, and was still singing happily. Xian finally dared to move. She stretched out her right hand and carefully touched the head of the small creature. "COO, COO." The little creature lay on the ground, showing its belly and gently patting its tail. "Here comes the chance." Jiang Han's eyes lit up. He soon suppressed his spiritual sense energy, turned it into a thread, and thrust it into the head of the little creature. Buzz! Jiang Han seemed to have been rebounded and took 3 steps back. But that successful examination, which only lasted 1/10 of a second, made Jiang Han's face change. "What's the matter?" asked Xian. Gulp. Jiang Han swallowed his saliva, looked at Xian and the little creature beside her leg. Then he looked back at Xian and looked down again. After looking back and forth 3 times, he said in shock, "If I'm not wrong, its background, it's amazing." Xian was nervous and asked in a hurry, "What's it?" Her husband was an immortal who had been reborn. Since she contacted her husband, Xian had not noticed any dumbfounded or shocked expression of Jiang Han, but now he showed both of them. Obviously, the little creature about half a meter long beside her leg was very frightening. "I saw some news on the stone wall beside a barren ancient pool. It was said that in the depth of the universe that was not touched by the cultivation world, there were fierce beasts that once lived in ancient times. Each of them was extremely powerful, and some very powerful ones could even tear the space and go to the world of immortals. As for this little creature, I can judge from its breath and shape that it's clearly an ancient curse rock." "Ancient cursed rock?" Xian was confused since she didn't understand Jiang Han's words. "Yes, it is very likely to be the ancient cursed rock. In the whole cultivation world, ancient cursed rock appeared twice in the past 10,000 years, when they were sleeping. They protected themselves with incantations and turned into their original forms. One upon a time, the ancient cursed rock turned into a mountain, and there was a town nearby for hundreds of years. One day, however, the mountain vibrated and the ancient cursed rock showed its original shape and directly advanced to heaven stage. It has been seen that many dark dangerous lands have been devoured by the ancient cursed rock. Its incantations can easily cover a continent, and no one knows what kind of supernatural power it has. It is the boat of curse, and the ship is obviously the appearance of it when it is sleeping. It has appeared frequently recently. Obviously, it is a newly born ancient cursed rock. It likes to devour the land of darkness to supplement the energy needed by incantations. In fact, it can swallow everything in the world, even thunder and spiritual chi. I didn't expect that it would recognize you as its master." Jiang Han looked at Xian and forced a smile. "The secret in your body seems beyond my imagination. What shall I do?" Xian was a little confused. Looking at the little creature below, she didn't know what to do. Subconsciously, she said, "Why don't we send it to its mother? If its mother can't find her child, she should be worried." Jiang Han was amused by Xian's words. He shook his head and said, "It's said that the birth of an ancient cursed rock took tens of thousands of years. Even if it had a mother, we don't know where that rock is now. Ancient demonic beasts are rarely to be seen in the cultivation world, and sometimes no one can recognize them. It usually takes 300 or 500 years for people to see them. I once met a black water tiger with a height of 10,000 feet. When it grows up, it may master some unique skills. Few people know about demonic beasts, and I've only heard of them. After explaining, Jiang Han thought about it and added, "It's good that it recognizes you as its master, but the newly born creature didn't have much fighting power until it advances to different levels. Moreover, countless resources are needed if we decide to raise the creature." The ancient cursed rock was horrible. Jiang Han felt a headache because the seemingly abundant natural resources and treasures on the mountain were not enough to feed the creature. Fortunately, it has absorbed a lot of energy when it was born, and now it is in a stable period. When it is advanced, it will need a lot of spirit treasures. Jiang Han shook his head slightly and calmed down. Looking at the little black creature, he smiled. Relatively speaking, it was a piece of pretty good news. Xian looked at the creature and asked, "What can we do now?" Jiang Han looked at Xian's right arm, where the little black spot mark was no longer visible, but he could still sense a little of its outline through his soul sense. After thinking about it, Jiang Han said, "How about trying to let it go back to your arm?" "Okay," Xian responded. After hearing Jiang Han's introduction, Xian was no longer afraid. Many people were afraid of the unknown, but when the mystery was uncovered, everything would go back to normal. Xian patted her right arm with her left hand and said, "Come back, COO." The young ancient cursed rock turned into a streak of black light and sneaked into Xian's arm. Then it turned into that little black spot again. Looking at the small mark like a tadpole, Jiang Han didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It's like a mountain when it grows up. I didn't expect it to be so small when it's young. There is this black symbol again, can it not be black? Xian looked up at Jiang Han and asked. As soon as she raised this question, the black mark on her arm suddenly turned red and moved into her head through her arm. I can still feel it. Xian was suddenly stunned and then looked at her arm. The mark dissipated, but she could feel that the little creature was still hidden there. Come out. The little creature came out again. COO. Go back. It went back into Xian's body. Out. Go back. Ha ha ha, it's so funny, I have a pet. After playing with the creature for a few times, Xian turned to look at Jiang Han with excitement in her eyes. Well, your pet is super good, but have you found a problem? What's the problem? It's awake now and living in your arm. If we're in bed, it's a disappointment when it comes out suddenly, Jiang Han said hesitantly. Xian blushed. You haven't recovered yet, don't think about those things. Ha. Jiang Han smiled and leaned towards Xian. My wife is so beautiful that I can't resist my desire. Humphrey. Xian was actually happy. She asked, where shall we raise it? Shall we make it a house? No, it's very strong, just raise it outside. It looks like a little whale. We can't let Meng Meng see it floating around outside, Xian said in confusion. It's simple, it can deform and we can make it a penguin, Jiang Han said casually. Good idea. Xian asked the little creature out, found a picture of a penguin through her cell phone, and then ordered, turn into this animal. COO. The creature didn't understand her words. You can turn into something like this with 2 little feet, and then, it took a long time for the little creature to understand a little bit of the order, though it was a little reluctant. It shook its tail and suddenly turned into a fuzzy creature with 2 feet and a white belly. Ha ha ha. Xian smiled and touched its head. Little guy, do you drink milk? COO. They didn't know if this was a positive answer or a refusal. Xian hurried into the kitchen, took a bottle of milk out, and handed it to the creature. It even ate up the bottle. Xian looked slightly stiff, not knowing if it could taste the milk. It doesn't eat these things, it grows by absorbing energy and awakening. Jiang Han replied, let it go to the mountain, Dai and Little Hai will be very happy to see it. What Jiang Han didn't expect was that after getting familiar with Dai and Little Hai, the ancient cursed rock also ate meat every day, and it even couldn't live without meat. Xian nodded after hearing Jiang Han's words. Little guy, I'd like to introduce you to two little brothers. You can play together. By the way, is it a male creature or a female one? I'll check it. Jiang Han thought for a moment and picked up the creature. After checking the creature up and down, he got no answer to Xian's question. I have never heard of the ancient cursed rock having a gender. Jiang Han was a little confused. He carefully observed the creature and said, let's recognize it as a female creature for the time being. Xian rolled her eyes at Jiang Han and then turned her gaze at the creature. Are you male or female? COO. All right. Given its behavior, it basically didn't understand anything. Let's go. Jiang Han took Xian's hand, and the little creature followed Xian. It seemed that it didn't like Jiang Han. I can't imagine that the boat of curse is its shape. No wonder it dared to run into Thunder Spirit, which made me come back so late for so many days. Jiang Han said, Humphrey, since you dared to bully my husband, I'll punish you later. Xian threatened the creature. Jiang Han couldn't help laughing. I agree. They came to the back mountain, talking and laughing. Seeing their hosts, Dai and Little He quickly ran towards them. Woo. Dai was scared by the creature. Woo. What's this? Well, this is your new partner, Dai and Little Hai. Treat your friend well and don't beat it too hard, Jiang Han said with a slight cough. Woof. Got it. Xian thought they were joking, so she looked at the little thing and pointed to the front. See, these are your two big brothers. You'll play with them later, be good. COO. With Xian's gesture, the little creature seemed to understand her words. It was also curious as it saw Dai and Little Hai. It felt that these two new playmates were of the same kind like it, so it clumsily walked towards them. Bang! As it approached, Dai slapped it. It didn't exert much force, but Xian was a little confused. Dai really hit it? Just as she was about to say something, Jiang Han stopped her and whispered, it won't get hurt, it's okay, it's good to hit it. Don't forget the dragon bone fish that I brought back at the beginning. When it came to the dragon bone fish, Xian's eyes lit up as she also remembered that funny thing. Originally, Jiang Han planned to breed the dragon bone fish, but as soon as he got it back, it was roasted by Dai and Little Hai. They won't bake this little thing, will they? Xian was shocked. Instead of stopping them, she blinked her eyes and looked at the front. Dai tried to tease the newcomer, but the little penguin actually did not move. Ow. I'll try hard. When Dai called, it looked at Xian and Jiang Han. Seeing their acquiescence, Dai tried again. Bang. Wow, pretty good. Bang. Damn it, what's it? Bang. I can't beat it. Bang. Finally, Dai used 80% of its force and suddenly found that, though its hand hurt, the little penguin actually lay on the ground, seeming to be enjoying the massage. Woo. Dai looked at Jiang Han, scratched its head, and then looked at Little Hai. Whoa. Second brother, bite him. Oh. Little Hai called in a low voice, though it wanted to keep calm, it decided to ask about it first. In the face of this scene, Jiang Han wanted to stop it cause the ancient cursed rock would only be strong after it grew up. This little thing was newly born and fragile, and it would be bad if it was bitten by Little Hai. Although Jiang Han knew they couldn't hurt it, he didn't want to try it. However, before Jiang Han could open his mouth, the next scene surprised him. In the face of Little Hai with its mouth open, the little cursed rock stood up and looked at it. It opened its mouth and spat out a fruit. Holy object. COO. Given the expression of the little creature, it seemed to it that Little Hai was here to ask for food. So it treated Little Hai generously. Little Hai immediately put away his tusks, threw out his big tongue, and looked at Jiang Han. Take it. Jiang Han nodded. Little Hai took over the fruit. Woo. Dai scratched its head and felt a little confused. Where's mine? COO. Seeing it spit out a sacred fruit, Dei happily patted its chest. Ooh, 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 ooh. Dei stretched out its palm, which was several times larger than the little cursed rock, to pat the latter's head, and then took the fruit and threw it into its mouth. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Dei pointed to the livestock area to one side. Good brother, you're loyal and generous. Wait for a while, and big brother will take you to eat meat in the evening. COO. The little cursed rock again spat out two kinds of holy objects and a pile of precious stones. Looking at them, Jiang Han found something wrong. He took a glance at Xian and pointed to the little cursed rock. Why didn't it give me a gift? Ha ha. Xian couldn't help laughing. I didn't have a gift either. Maybe it thinks those two are playmates. Jiang Han smiled. They get familiar with each other so quickly. This little cursed rock is amazing. After standing there for a while, they met several people passing by. They were Wang Zanping, Wang Ming, and Chen Chengqing. They were all surprised at the little cursed rock. Brother Han, how did you get a penguin back? It can act as Meng Meng's companion. Jiang Han didn't explain too much. Some things didn't need to be explained. Chen Chengqing examined the penguin with his soul sense and suddenly found that it was not ordinary. So he rushed to the side of Jiang Han, took him to the other side, and whispered, "What's this?" "It's my wife's pet," Jiang Han replied with a smile. "A pet, penguin? I can't examine it." Chen Chengqing was stunned. "No." Jiang Han shook his head slightly. "The boat of curse exists because of it." The boat of curse was not the little cursed rock, but the incantation it was born with. It absorbed a lot of energy and finally got the outline of a boat. Every time it made a subconscious behavior, it came out to look for food or ran into some relics. Frankly speaking, it appeared frequently because the little cursed rock was about to be born. The previous boat of curse was so powerful that it could not be countered by divine realm martial artists. However, the little cursed rock was newly born with no attack power. It had not yet awakened. However, Jiang Han knew that it would grow to be a great help for them to travel to the cultivation world. Puff. Chen Chengqing almost bit his tongue. He looked at the little cursed rock with disbelief. Is this creature so powerful? In the future, it must be more powerful than the boat of curse, Jiang Han answered. Okay. Chen Chengqing took a long breath. Come on, I'll go for a walk with Fei Fei. Brother Han, are you better? Almost. In a few days, I will be able to recover. That's good, I'm leaving. Chen Chengqing laughed and left for a walk with Zif. What are you whispering about? Xian came up and took Jiang Han's arm. About the little cursed rock. He couldn't examine it, either, so he asked me about it. Oh, by the way, shall we give it a name? We can't always call it little cursed rock. Let's pick up Meng Meng from school later and let her name it. Jiang Han smiled. His lovely daughter had another little companion. Chapter 697, Parent-Child Activities. Honey, it's nearly 3 o'clock. Shall we go shopping? Xian put her arms around Jiang Han's neck and looked up at him with her glowing eyes. Retail therapy makes me happy. I haven't gone shopping for a long time. Both Xian's actions and her lively tone only added to her charm. In the past, Xian would not have made such a gesture, but her love for Jiang Han had changed a lot of things. Jiang Han would never refuse the beauty's request. He smiled and pouted, "Give me a kiss." Xian glanced around, then quickly stood on tiptoe and gently kissed Jiang Han's lips. Let's go shopping. Jiang Han laughed contentedly and raised his right arm slightly. Xian snuggled close to him and walked to the front of the mountain. Woof! Bang! 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 Woof! 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 Dei shouted a few times, pounded its own chest and then raised 3 fingers in front of the little cursed rock and said, "In this mountain, in addition to our host, I am the eldest, it is the second and you are the third. Behave yourself, follow your big brother and you will definitely get benefits." Woof! 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 Dei talked to Little Hai using its eyes. Woof! Whoosh! Little Hai moved and soon came back with a Hungarian sheep pig. which was the same size as Little Hai. Woof, woof, woof. Dai clapped its hands and pointed to the direction of the back mountain. Coo, coo. The little cursed rock did not understand anything. When it saw Dai and Little Hai walking toward the dense forest, it followed them. In the dense forest, on a boulder, there was a bonfire that had been used for a long time. The two beasts, quite skillfully took the wood, made a fire, shaved the pig, cleaned the meat and roasted it over the fire. They then sprinkled the seasoning that had been set aside. After a while, the smell of barbecued meat filled this part of the forest. Puff, puff. After the meat was done, Dai bit off a large piece of it. Then it took off a leg and after thinking for a moment, broke off half of it and handed it to the little cursed rock. Woof, 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 woof. Little brother, try it. Coo, coo. The little cursed rock did not know what Dai meant and had no interest in the meat, but it wanted to get along well with its new friends. Therefore, it extended its wings on both sides, picked up the joint and ate it, bit by bit. Coo, coo. Whoa, whoa. Ha ha ha. Dai glanced at it, grinned several times and then exchanged a few looks with Little Hai. Look, this guy is so active. When it first came here, it came to pay homage to us and it even brought us special foods. It is unlike that silly fish who made trouble here. If we meet that kind of fish the next time, I'll cook it directly. They began eating. Jiang Han and Xian were in a large shopping mall in Zikeng district. Xian, who wore a cap and a pair of sunglasses, was excited. They already had a lot of clothes, but they liked to try new styles every year. Summer had arrived and it was getting hot. All kinds of beauties displaying attractive legs were out and about on the street. The shopping mall was filled with shops selling all kinds of new clothes and soon Jiang Han's hands were full. Half of the clothes they bought were for Meng Meng, because Xian liked to dress her daughter up. The other half were for Jiang Han and Xian. Although Xian was not done yet, it was almost 4 p.m. and she had to stop her shopping. Together with Jiang Han, they went down to the parking lot located at one side of the shopping mall. Mr. Jiang, just as they were about to get into the car, they heard someone addressing them hesitantly. Looking around, they saw Li Kai, Meng Meng's classmate Li Mun's father, who was a real estate agent. Mr. Li. Jiang Han replied. Mr. Jiang and Mrs. Li Kai approached them and said with a smile, "What a coincidence that we should meet here. Yes, we were here to buy some clothes for the summer." Xian smiled. "Mr. Jiang, have you heard anything about the school?" Li Kai said seriously. "What's the matter?" Jiang Han shook his head. "Didn't Meng Meng tell you about it?" Li Kai was surprised. "Huh?" Jiang Han looked at Li Kai in confusion. "What's the matter? Was Meng Meng being bullied at school?" Jiang Han began worrying about Meng Meng. However, Jiang Han was soon amused by what Li Kai said next and wanted to tell Li Kai that if he could not tell them the complete story, he'd better see a doctor to get this condition treated. Li Kai said with a sad look, "Well, it's this school activity. At noon today, my girl called me and asked me to rearrange my schedule in advance. There will be a parent-child cooking activity at school this Saturday and all the children are asked to work with their parents to make lunch in order to enhance their relationship. What can I do? What else should I do to enhance my relationship with my own daughter? Most importantly, I can't cook. If I had 10%, no, 1% of Mr. Jiang's talent in cooking, I would be very happy to join them. Now, it's very difficult for me. Why were we not aware of this activity?" Xian was surprised and eager to have a try. "It was announced this morning. Maybe my daughter was worried that I would not be able to go with her, so she borrowed Teacher Lu's phone to inform me in advance." Li Kai sighed again. It was clear that it would be a problem for him. He did not know how to cook and was worried about being ridiculed by the other parents and end up embarrassing his daughter. "Where is Moon's mother? Surely she knows how to cook?" Xian asked curiously. "Her mother is on a business trip and can't come back on Saturday." Li Kai had no choice but to smile and said, Although this activity is said to be voluntary, I think that everyone wants to participate in it, including Min, and there will be little red flowers as gifts. She will be unhappy if I don't agree, so I decided to go with her. I just found a chef to teach me how to cook 2 simple dishes. I hope that I will not feel too embarrassed on Saturday. Jiang Han heard the keywords red flowers. He knew that Meng Meng had to go to the activity. This was just what Jiang Han wanted. The gate of the worldlet was about to open and he wanted to spend all his leisure time with Meng Meng. By the way, Mr. Jiang, I am embarrassed to say this. Li Kai's eyes lit up. Rubbing his hands together, Li Kai said in a slightly bashful tone, since I happened to meet Mr. Jiang, I'll tell you that I have an unreasonable request. Do you need some ingredients? Jiang Han knew what Li Kai meant when he saw the look in Li Kai's eyes. He guessed right. Hey, Mr. Jiang is right. I've eaten Mr. Jiang's food several times and I'm really impressed. I'm so bad at cooking that I want to make up for my shortcomings in other ways. Li Kai said with a smile, some rice and eggs will be enough. You want to make egg fried rice? Jiang Han was amused. Li Kai wanted to learn how to cook for his daughter's sake. Although it was just a simple meal, Li Mun would always remember this occasion. Jiang Han was also aware of this as he would also do his best to satisfy whatever Meng Meng wanted at this stage of her childhood, in this short period of time. He did not want to have any regrets. He wanted to give Meng Meng a perfect childhood. Maybe Li Kai had the same idea, so he chose to learn how to cook at this time. Hearing Jiang Han's words, Li Kai laughed. Just fried eggs with white rice. I have not decided on the main course yet. I'm going to consult the chef this evening. Ha ha, okay, take your time to study it. When you need the ingredients, go to the mountain and get them. Jiang Han nodded. Thank you, Mr. Jiang, thank you so much, this will be a great help to me. Li Kai was flattered and thanked him repeatedly. You're welcome. Jiang Han nodded his head and put the large bag of clothes into the trunk. Li Kai left to pick his daughter up from school. He got into the car and did not tell the driver to leave. Instead, Li Kai waited for Jiang Han to drive his car out first. At 4:20 p.m., their car arrived at the school gate. Jiang Han and Xian walked into the school. When they saw Meng Meng, the little girl rushed into Papa's arms as usual. Papa, Mama, I will have another little red flower on Saturday and then I can get the grand prize trophy. That sounds great. What is happening on Saturday? Aren't you on holiday on Saturday? Jiang Han pretended he did not know anything. No holiday, not this time. Meng Meng solemnly told him, it's an activity and I want to cook. They went back to the car, talking and laughing. Xian and Meng Meng chatted away in the back seat like happy birds. When they were about to return to Mount New Moon, they came to a conclusion. We have decided that Meng Meng and I will make lunch for you on Saturday. Ha ha, well, I'm so happy. Jiang Han nodded with a smile. Jiang Han was a sensitive man and he did not say, are you going to cook? Will your food be edible? Xian and Meng Meng began to think about what delicious food to make on Saturday. Of course, it was Xian who talked and Meng Meng who listened. Meng Meng did not know how to cook, thus Xian could do whatever she planned. Anyway, Meng Meng thought she must be right to echo Xian's words. Back on the mountain, Jiang Han cooked dinner. During this period, Xian kept staring at his hands and asked from time to time, how do you know the mushroom is cooked? This meat has just been fried, why fry it again? It was common for people who were good at cooking to think it was very simple and those who did not know how to cook would think it was difficult. Facing Xian, who was eager to have a try, Jiang Han was very patient and slowed down the cooking process in order to answer all her questions. When all kinds of dishes were cooked and served at the table, Xian stared at them and said with a bit of frustration, I can't do it as well as you. As long as they taste good, besides, I'll be your assistant. No, you are wrong, Papa. I am going to assist Mama, not you. Well, okay. The family of 3 ate their dinner happily. After a short rest, Xian remembered something. By the way, let's go to the back mountain and let Meng Meng name the little thing. As he said this, Xian took the lead to stand up and went downstairs with Jiang Han, holding Meng Meng's small hand. Mama, what's that little thing? Meng Meng raised her head and asked curiously, her big, clear eyes unblinking. You'll know later. Xian did not tell her in advance. When night came, the moon was high in the sky and the bright moonlight bathed Mount New Moon in a haze of beauty. With the surrounding lights, the whole mountain was not dark at all. Even so, when Meng Meng came to the back mountain, she was still shocked by the little black thing running toward her. Wow, what's that? Take a closer look. Xian squatted, held Meng Meng in her arms and kissed her face. Meng Meng was slightly stunned and looked at it carefully. When the little cursed rock came near, its cute penguin appearance made Meng Meng's big eyes brighten instantly. It's a goose. Meng Meng forgot what the correct term was and said, it's a snow goose. Well, this is a penguin at present. When it grows up, it will become something else. Jiang Han replied. Now the little cursed rock camouflaged itself in this way. When Meng Meng grew up and began her cultivation, the little cursed rock would make its own appearance. After all, it would be a little frightening to let Meng Meng see a big fish floating around for now. Ooh, 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 ooh. Dai stretched out 3 fingers. It's our third young brother. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Little Hai also cheerfully called out twice and ran several times around the family of 3. Papa, Mama, can I touch it? Meng Meng asked. Of course, you can, Jiang Han replied with a smile. Go ahead. Xian patted Meng Meng's back. Meng Meng took 2 steps forward and reached out her little hand to touch the head of the little cursed rock. Well, what's your name? It doesn't have a name yet. We are waiting for you to name it. Xian smiled as she reminded her. It is up to me, ha ha ha. Meng Meng laughed and patted the little cursed rock's head. I'll give you a name. But what should it be called? Meng Meng felt a little confused again. Then she looked at her fingers and mumbled, Big Hai Hai, Little Hai Hai, well, Little Hai Hai, Little Hai Hai, Little Hai Hai, no, Little Hai. Dai was a little anxious. It lay down with its head pointed toward Meng Meng and then it held out 3 fingers. Whoa, 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 it's our third brother, eh? Meng Meng's bright eyes blinked as she thought hard. After a while, she mumbled, shall we call it third Hai Hai, then Big Hai Hai, eh? Who is second Hai Hai? Is second Hai Hai Little Hai Hai? It's not. Jiang Han and Xian could not stop laughing, feeling that the girl was so cute. Finally, Xian prompted her, you can use other words. We have Dai and Little Hai and you can call it by other names, such as Little Bell, Little Thing, etc. But it is also black. COO, COO. The little cursed rock liked Meng Meng and called out happily in front of her. It seemed that it could sense Xian's mood and knew that the little girl in front of it was going to give it a name. But it never expected. Mama, it's much smaller than Big Hai Hai and Little Hai Hai. Shall we call it Tiny Tot? Okay, Tiny Tot is fine. Xian nodded with a smile. Puff. Jiang Han coughed twice and the corners of his mouth twitched. He didn't know what to say. Tiny Tot. In his mind, he pictured the 3 of them traveling to the cultivation world on the back of the giant rock and then Meng Meng giving it directions and saying, Tiny Tot, let's go there. What a wonderful picture. It was a little weird to call a giant Tiny Tot. But Jiang Han always supported Xian and Meng Meng's decision. Tiny Tot, well, it's a very nice name. Meng Meng is so clever. Ha ha ha, Tiny Tot, you are Tiny Tot, Big Hai Hai, Little Hai Hai, we have a new friend called Tiny Tot. Meng Meng said happily. Woof, woof, woof. Dai roared excitedly. Whatever it is, Giant Tot or Tiny Tot, it will always be our third young brother. COO, COO. The little cursed rock's mouth opened, as if it was smiling, Looking at Meng Meng with its bright eyes, it spat out a small flower. Holy object. Jiang Han was surprised. Why does this little thing have so many treasures? Didn't it absorb all the treasures it got from the relics? Jiang Han narrowed his eyes slightly. It is a treasury rock. It must have gone through a long period of growth before. How many ruins has it explored during that time? No one knew the specific number, but judging from the rock's treasures, it had to be a big harvest each time. Seeing this, Meng Meng was stunned. What is this? It is sending me a flower. Papa, it seems to like me. It likes Meng Meng. Jiang Han said with a smile, look, the flower that it's just held in its mouth has been given to you. Take this small gift and let's plant it in the farmland over the first. Meng Meng took the palm-size flower and went over to the medicine field, where she planted the flower in the soil at the edge. She finished the whole process successfully. They went back to the back mountain again and had a good time with the new member. Ooh, 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 ha ha ha. They laughed and cheered. Little cursed rock, oh no. Tiny Tot looked at them and was very friendly. C-O-O, C-O-O. Woof, woof, woof. The large pack of dogs were also excited. Looking at this scene, Xian smiled contentedly. She was sitting in the back seat with her head resting on Jiang Han's shoulder. I've thought about what it would be like to have a home before. I've given it a lot of thought, but now it's much better than I imagined it to be. Thank you. I'm very happy. Jiang Han gently patted Xian's arm. We will always be happy. It was like an agreement. But this was destined to be an everlasting love. Tired after playing in the evening, Xian and Meng Meng went back to their bedroom and fell asleep amidst Jiang Han's storytelling. The next day was Friday and Meng Meng only had classes in the morning. In the afternoon, she discussed with Mama about what to do the next day. They decided to keep it a secret from Jiang Han. At 9 o'clock the next morning, the family of 3 were ready to leave. Zhao Feng put all kinds of food ingredients in small bags and stuffed them into the trunk of the panda car. Teacher Liu had already informed them that they did not need to bring anything except food materials, because the school had all the other necessities. There were 21 students in the class and 20 of them were participating in the activity. This was a very high participation rate. Jiang Han drove to the school. It was really lively here. On the side of the playground, a lot of equipment had been set up. The stoves were arranged such that the large pots were on the top and wood could be filled from its bottom. On the side, there were simple kitchen tables with brand new clean knives on them, chopping boards and other kitchen utensils on the top. The school spent quite an amount of money to organize this activity. St. Kindergarten was rich. They were not there merely for money and were not short of money either. They were devoted to service, so every once in a while they would have such an activity. It was a good day with clear skies and no wind, which was quite suitable for activities like cooking in the open. Chapter 698, A Leisurely Weekend. This activity was for the junior classes of the kindergarten. As for the middle classes and senior classes, their activities were not on the same day. It would be July soon and this activity would be the last activity for the junior classes. A total of nearly 100 stoves had been set up in a large circle, according to the location of each class. Class 5 was on the right. On this day, the internal parking lot of the kindergarten was open to the public. Though many teachers came by subway today, there were still all kinds of cars on both sides of the road in front of the kindergarten. No one would envy any parent's luxury cars, because everyone here was rich. Wang Yihan's family drove their Bentley today, which was normal. Of course, there were also some low-cost cars for family use among the luxurious ones. Judging from the appearance, the cheapest one was Jiang Han's small panda car. But some people knew that the most important person here was the owner of the car. Let's go. Jiang Han got out of the car and opened the back seat door. Under Jiang Han's watchful eyes, Meng Meng jumped down by herself. Xian got out from the other side. After closing the door, Jiang Han opened the trunk and carried out all the bags of food ingredients. Their car was parked at the right side of the gate. They walked all the way to the gate of the kindergarten and saw some people carrying the same food bags on both sides. It seemed as if they had just left a vegetable market. Among them, there were two couples who were noticeably not in a good mood. They were carrying the food a little reluctantly and appeared to be irritated with each other. Here we are, let's go with the flow. More people thought so, and there were few parents who were as excited and happy as Jiang Han and Xian. Well, Mama, someone over there is taking pictures of us. Meng Meng held her Papa and Mama's hands in her two small hands. Looking left and right, she suddenly found that several people with cameras were taking photos not far from the entrance of the school gate. Most people were familiar with this scene. Many practical media editors would go to various shopping malls, press conferences and other places to look for news. This kindergarten was one of the places they often visited. Nothing serious, let them do it, Xian said casually. If Zif and the others heard her words, they would think that Xian was accepting the reality of the situation and did not want to hide anything at all. Xian also thought the same. She was enjoying the feeling of being with her family and did not want to hide the fact that she had a husband and a daughter. In fact, sometimes circumstances changed, and so too with her pursuit of fame. Xian did not care so much about retaining the title of movie queen, but she knew that with the help of the successful movie Pirates of the Caribbean, they would be nominated at least. Let's go, I'll try your dishes today. Jiang Han smiled. The family of three entered the school and found class 5 in the playground. Lu Go and the other two teachers were making arrangements respectively. Meng Meng's father and mother. Lu Go smiled and said hello to them. It seems that you have come fully prepared. Yes, I'll take this opportunity to show my cooking skills. Xian answered confidently. This way. Please, your seats today are arranged according to the seats the students sat in last week. You are seated a little to the right. Lu Go showed them the way to their seats. The names of the students were written on the side of each stove. They soon saw Meng Meng's name, Zhang Yuman. Coincidentally, Li Kai was on Meng Meng's left, while Wang Yihan was on her right. Mr. Zhang. Both Li Kai and Wang Jian said hello to Jiang Han after seeing them. Meng Meng was surrounded by Wang Yihan, Li Mun, Martin and other familiar friends. They soon began playing behind the parents. When Xian put the ingredients and food materials on the board, Su Yu came to her and asked with a smile, "We can see Jiang's cooking skills today." "No, it's me." Xian replied, "I am going to cook today." "Wow!" Su Yu was surprised. "You can also cook?" "Of course." Xian pursed her mouth. She was a little unsure, but she said it firmly. "Great." Li Kai, who liked to flatter others, clapped repeatedly. Xian was amused and burst out laughing, and even Jiang Han could not help smiling. He had seen Xian's performance in the kitchen. When cooking, her arms were raised while slicing vegetables, and the distance between herself and the cooking pot was at least 1 meter. It was impossible for Jiang Han to tease Xian, and he even nodded in agreement with her. While they were chatting, the temporary stage setup in the center was being fitted out with sound facilities, because the school had also organized some performances. After chatting with each other for a short time, they saw Luo Shan, who was dressed formally, stepping onto the stage accompanied by the president, deputy director and other senior officials. He was now in the same position as Patriarch Luo Chengwen, and he had become one of the family leaders and an important helper of the Patriarch. He knew that Mr. Jiang was responsible for all this. After stepping onto the stage, Luo Shan took the microphone. "Hello, everyone, I am Luo Shan. We welcome everyone to this activity held by this school, and we are glad you are able to participate despite your busy schedule. With the rapid development of society, sometimes we neglect our family members, so..." His 2-minute speech was not too long or too short. After he finished, all the parents and students clapped in succession. Luo Shan kept looking at Jiang Han, and he was happy to see the family of 3 applauding for him. Now the activity will begin. At the end of the president's speech, Melodious music began playing on the stage. "Here we go, Meng Meng, let's go and cook." Xian took Meng Meng's hand and went to the chopping board. After that, Xian turned on the rice cooker and took out the small pot inside. Then she took out a small bowl with a weighing scale from a small rice bag. 2 bowls of rice. How many bowls of water? Xian was a little confused. She poured 2 bowls of rice into the pot, washed it twice with water and then added a bowl of water. She felt the water might not be enough, so she slowly repeated the steps several times. Is it enough? It seemed okay from the outside, but Xian was a little uncertain. She looked back at Jiang Han, who was sitting at the small table 5 meters behind her. Seeing Jiang Han nodding several times, Xian withdrew her hand. The water must be enough. Mama, what can I do? Xian was so busy that she completely forgot about Meng Meng standing next to her. Oh, wait a minute. Xian found some lettuces from a pile of ingredients and took out a small metal basin. Meng Meng, sit here and tear off the leaves one by one. All right. Meng Meng happily took the basin, put it beside her feet and then began to work as she sat on a small stool. After checking that Meng Meng was doing the right thing, Xian began to deal with the ingredients herself. Cola chicken wings. How many cuts should I make on the wings? Xian thought about it as she took out the chicken wings and put it on the small chopping board. Then she took out a knife, cut it horizontally, 2 cuts on the front and 3 cuts on the back. When she was focusing on the chicken wings, she suddenly found that many people were looking at her. Cough. After Xian hid her surprise, she suddenly remembered that she was not wearing her apron. She took the apron out and put it on in her usual elegant style. Then she began to cut the chicken wings with a knife. From a distance, she looked like an experienced cook. However, if one was to watch her performance closely, he would find that she sawed her knife back and forth several times to make each cut on the wings. There were only 10 wings in all and she dealt with them quickly. We'll make mapo tofu, scrambled eggs, cola chicken wings, mushroom and lettuces today. Which one should we make first? Let's try scrambled eggs. Xian hesitated for a moment, then she cracked the eggs, poured them into a bowl and stirred them several times. When the fire was lit, Xian poured oil into the pot and then she was a little confused. Ouch! Ah! It's hot! Different screams could be heard. Xian looked around and found that some parents had already started cooking and some of the mothers who could not cook had been splattered by hot oil. Well, Xian frowned worriedly. The oil was so hot that it would hurt her hands and face. On her left, Li Kai was frying eggs. He looked very skilled and even did a few difficult moves with his slicer. When his second move succeeded, he chuckled and turned his head. How about it, Moon? Your father is great, right? The third time he tried to play with the slicer, whoosh, the eggs flew into the sky. The trajectory of the eggs was fascinating to watch. Ouch! Li Kai brought the pot to the side but did not manage to catch them. As he looked at the eggs on the ground, his face froze. Some of the other parents burst out laughing. Xian was also amused and felt more relaxed. At least she was serious about cooking and would not throw the food about. Mama, I've done it. Is there anything else? The little princess was very clever. She asked what else she could do and wanted to share Xian's tasks. But Meng Meng was still too young and Xian did not let her do anything else. Instead, she said, your papa has been sitting there alone for a long time. Go and accompany him. You can have lunch after Mama finishes cooking. No way. Meng Meng raised her head and looked at Xian with clear eyes, saying, we agreed to cook for Papa together. I should also cook with my small slicer. What an ambitious girl. Jiang Han was amused because Meng Meng could not even reach the stove. Ha ha. Xian laughed and said, you helped Mama deal with the food ingredients and the lunch was made by both of us. Huh? Meng Meng was surprised and then ran back to Jiang Han. Papa, I cooked today. Yes, I saw Meng Meng helping Mama with the lettuces. You made the lunch together. Jiang Han nodded and said, yes. Meng Meng cheered up and smiled. It must be delicious. Ha ha. While listening to the father and daughter chatting, Xian began to scramble the eggs. Sizzle. Hearing the sound of food and oil making contact, Xian was a little nervous, worrying that the oil would splatter, but she soon found that not only was there no oil, even the odor of the cooking oil did not come out of the pot. Xian looked back at Jiang Han. Seeing his expression, she knew he was cheating again. With a happy smile, she turned her head and concentrated on cooking. Now that she did not have to worry about the oil and odor, Xian showed an extraordinary performance that surprised many other parents. Wow! Meng Meng's pretty mother is good at cooking. She is Xian, the otherworldly fairy. How is it that she knows how to cook? It's amazing. Her movements are so fluid that her cooking must definitely be excellent. No matter what a beauty does, it is a pleasure to see it. Her cooking moves are very artistic. Xian could not hear the other parents' comments as clearly as Luxan, who was sweeping the floor behind her. The aged man could not help laughing because he knew what Jiang Han had done. What a happy family. He found that Jiang Han was seriously preventing Xian's every mistake during the process of cooking. When Xian accidentally poured out excessive soy sauce, Jiang Han would help her make it right. Fortunately, Xian made 4 dishes and only had 3 minor problems. For someone who seldom cooked, her performance was very good in Jiang Han's eyes. The allotted cooking time soon passed. When Xian brought the meal to the table, she felt satisfied and proud that she had finished the task. Look, this is the lunch your dear wife and daughter made for you. Great. Jiang Han made a gesture of praise. It's delicious. Meng Meng's eyes lit up and stopped for 2 seconds on the dish, then she raised her head again. Mama, can I cook on my own with a slicer next time? She still wanted to try it. Well, yes, just let Papa accompany you. Xian smiled. People around began to eat and there were people singing and dancing on the stage. The activity lasted more than 2 hours. After leaving school, the family of 3 were ready to have a good weekend. They wanted to go out this afternoon, but the little cursed rock was in Mount New Moon and Meng Meng wanted to introduce it to her good friends. She invited Wang Yihan, Martin and Lehman to go back to the mountain together. It's a new good friend, it's called Tiny Tot. You can see how small it is. Meng Meng gave a brief introduction on the back mountain. COO. Tiny Tot spat a few things out of its mouth. 2 holy objects. Jiang Han. He managed to control the quivering of his mouth and said, Tiny Tot's gifts for you. Well, we should plant the gifts over there. Meng Meng pointed to the direction of the medicine field. Lehman and Martin followed her obediently to plant the gifts. Then they returned to the back mountain to play contentedly. Jiang Han did not know what to say. It is better to call it an ancient treasure rock rather than an ancient cursed rock. However, Jiang Han knew that these treasures might not be absorbed by Tiny Tot or was temporarily stored by it. Although Tiny Tot had recently taken out a lot of treasures to give away, the cost of raising this sky would still be high in the future. Jiang Han glanced at Dai and began to make a plan. It's time to help Dai absorb that drop of divine object-level blood refined from Halon Prince and his fellows. After a few days of rest, Jiang Han's injury gradually healed and Xian felt more at ease. Both of them were free during this time, and romantic things often happened in the castle. When Meng Meng was at home during the weekend, they would behave themselves. The group spent an afternoon on the mountain on Saturday. After a sumptuous dinner, Li Kai and others politely expressed their thanks and left. On Sunday, the family of 3 went to play in another children's park. Meng Meng was unable to resist the temptation of amusement parks. She would never get bored of them. Chapter 699, The Evolution of Dai. On Monday, Meng Meng went to school again. It was July and it was their last week before the summer vacation. Meng Meng was very happy with the second trophy. The number of little red flowers she gained was now 35, which motivated Meng Meng to study hard. In the process of teaching, Lugo felt that the little girl was extraordinary. Meng Meng had a good memory. She learned everything quickly and her score always ranked first in the class. On Monday, after sending Meng Meng to school, Jiang Han went back to Mount New Moon, and when he got off, he saw Zif and Chen Chenking out on a walk. When she saw Jiang Han, Zif sauntered over to him. "Brother-in-law, when will the second film of Pirates of the Caribbean series start? In order to accompany you, elder sister Yan has refused a lot of cooperation opportunities recently. Now that your injury has healed and you can move freely, shall we make a new film?" "Well, Meng Meng is having her vacation break soon. How can Brother Han have time to do something else?" Chen Chenking shook his head slightly. He understood Jiang Han's position in the family. When Meng Meng was at home, Brother Han followed and took care of her most of the time. When Meng Meng was hungry, he rushed to cook for her. When Meng Meng was thirsty, he served her with water or squeezed juice for her. If Meng Meng wanted to go out to play, he packed up and set off immediately. It was better when Xian was at home. If Xian was not there, Meng Meng would become the king of the mountain. And since the worldlet is about to appear, Instructor Liu woke up yesterday and Captain Jiang went to visit him. This Instructor Liu was too glib and he was beaten again just after he was able to leave the bed. In addition, I have just heard from Captain Jiang that there have been several violent fluctuations at the entrance of each worldlets in the past 2 days. It is expected that after 5 days, they may be opened at any time. Chen Chenking said without pause. "I see." Jiang Han nodded. He was ready. "I see. Forget it. We'll make the new film when you're free." Zif shrugged helplessly. This time, Jiang Han looked at Xian with a smile and said, "We can hold our own wedding ceremony after my parents come back." Xian, who had been smiling, suddenly felt a little shy. "It's up to you." As the couple was about to show their love, they heard Zif's voice next to them. "Kiss me." Zif put her arms around Chen Chenking's neck and gave him a strong kiss on his face and then said triumphantly, "Now you two have no effect on us." Chen Chenking's face was frozen, but the corners of his mouth were still curved upward. He liked Zif, who was so broad-minded and frank. Xian blinked her beautiful big eyes and said with a smile, "You two just fell in love. Take this time as a holiday to enjoy the world that only belongs to both of you." It used to take half to 1 year to make a film, but now 1 month is enough. It's reasonable to have longer holidays. HMPH, Sister Yan, you just want to marry my brother-in-law as soon as possible. Zif hummed and laughed. "So what?" Xian rolled her eyes at Zif proudly. "I'm proud that I'm going to marry him and we have a lovely baby." "No, our baby is now a lovely girl, isn't she, sweetheart?" "Yes, yes, yes. After chatting for a few minutes, Jiang Han thought of his real purpose and said, "Take your seat and have a rest. I'm going to give Dai something useful. I'll go with you and have a look." Xian replied, "We'll go with you too." Zif took Chen Chenking by the hand. When they passed by Thunder Yang Tree on the way to the back mountain, Jiang Han moved his right hand. 4 kinds of spiritual herbs in different shapes flew out of his space ring, floated to the medicine field and took root in it. Jiang Han had obtained 13 kinds of holy objects in the northern ice field. 2 of them were given to Jiwash Wang and Xinjiang Shan, who came to help him. 1 was used to save the life of Instructor Liu, 1 was used to heal the wounds of Chen Chenking and the others, and 5 were used to refine Halan Prince in the west. Now, there were only 4 kinds of holy objects left in Jiang Han's hands. With the improvement of his strength, he now consumed the holy objects at a faster pace. The holy objects could be compared to diamonds. Ordinary families could afford diamonds, but rich people had larger diamonds. As for the wealthy and influential families, they could even treat the diamonds as toys to play with. Nowadays, small sects were like ordinary families, though Jiang Han's financial resources, in terms of the speed at which he consumed treasures, was far less than that of the wealthy and influential families. They were enough for him to be regarded as a rich man. Most importantly, it was about time. It was very time-consuming to accumulate resources, and Jiang Han had returned to the world for less than 1 year. Everyone would be shocked if he made the treasures in Mount New Moon public and announced that he had acquired them in 1 year. Dai, come here. When he reached the back mountain, Jiang Han waved to Dai. Woof, woof, woof. Dai cheered and ran toward Jiang Han as fast as it could. Whoosh. Little Hai was the fastest. It was the first to sit in front of Jiang Han and Xian, raising its head, sticking out its tongue and wagging its tail on the grass. As usual, Jiang Han and Xian touched Little Hai's head. Zif also stretched out her hand, but Little Hai turned its head and left. Compared with the other docile pet dogs, Little Hai was a little different. Though Little Hai enjoyed the touch on its head and abdomen from its host and his family, it was very resistant to close contact with others. Coo. Tiny Tot followed Dai and Little Hai at a normal speed. When it approached Jiang Han, it followed its 2 brothers and called out several times happily. How are you going to let Dai absorb that drop of blood? Chen Chenking frowned and said, it's hard to do this with its strength. Normally, it will be seriously injured if it swallows the blood directly. Will it hurt? Xian was worried. Woo. Dai scratched its head, stared at Jiang Han and immediately began to roll on the ground. Whoa, 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 whoa. I don't want to get hurt, I'm afraid of pain. It won't hurt. Jiang Han was amused and shook his head. I've learned a method called suppressing mountains, so. Jiang Han stretched out his right hand and the drop of blood, which was classified as a divine object according to its chi, floated 10 centimeters above his palm. Although it was a 5th stage spirit treasure in terms of classification, sometimes there were big gaps between spirit treasures. For example, although Thunder Yang Tree, Thunder Yang Flower and Thunder Yang Grass were all at 5th stage spirit treasures, Thunder Yang Tree was at the highest level, as it could give birth to Thunder Yang Wood, refine it into Thunder Yang Pill and help martial artists to advance to the perfect innateness stage. Thunder Yang Tree was even better than many useless 6th level spirit treasures. Practicality was very important for spirit treasures. Useful things, such as Water Spirit Stone, was favored by martial artists even if they were only at the 1st level. As for high-level treasures that were not practical, they could only be used as decorations. Jiang Han closed his eyes as soon as the blood appeared. He did not open his mouth, but his low murmurs spread through the area. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Although there was no wind, Jiang Han's clothes began to flutter, with a kind of profound and mysterious chi. Clatter. All of a sudden, the drop of blood burned. It was constantly heated at first, but suddenly it seemed to change into ice and turned into red ice in an instant. Then the ice began to melt. At this time, the blood floated to the top of Dai's head. The water it melted into was actually extremely pure liquid energy, which slowly flowed into Dai's body. Boom. Dai's body was no longer deformed, but gradually grew larger and reached a height of 5 meters. Drops of ice in the form of flames turned into water, constantly scouring Dai's body. Dai felt as comfortable as if he was having a sauna. It could finally enjoy a gentle upgrade. Dai felt its internal strength and physical defensibility were growing rapidly. It was lying on the ground and rapidly growing taller. 5.1 meters, 5.3 meters, 5.5 meters. The circulation of energy stopped. Clatter. That drop of blood turned into flames again, solidified into ice and then melted into massive pure energy, which continuously improved Dai's strength by an irrigation-like method. 5.7 meters, 6 meters, 6.5 meters, 7 meters. At the same time, Dai's chi was also upgraded, Grandmaster Middle Stage, Grandmaster Late Stage. Dai's level of cultivation continued to grow. That drop of blood repeatedly turned into flames, condensed into ice and melted. When the 7th cycle ended, Dai's height was now at 10 meters. Some readers may think that 10 meters did not seem very high. Think about it, the height of one floor is almost 3 meters, so 10 meters is equal to the height of 3 floors. What Dai to Jiang Han now was what Jiang Han appeared to a chick. This was a qualitative leap, but Dai was still closing its eyes and enjoying the wonderful feeling of strength promotion. Its cultivation level had been upgraded to Grandmaster Peak, very close to Divine Realm. Jiang Han stopped his movements and that drop of blood became a lot thinner. Whoosh! Jiang Han flicked the remaining blood into Dai's forehead with his right finger. When you've absorbed the last energy, you'll be at the stage of innateness. Jiang Han said with a smile. Woo, 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 wheeze, wheeze. Dai jumped and danced about happily. Little Hai was also cheering and jumping around Dai happily. Although Little Hai was not jealous, Jiang Han liked to take care of everyone. He looked at Little Hai and said, now you have reached the middle stage by eating gems. It's powerful. I'll give you a small gift after I advance to the stage of innateness. As for Tiny Tot, even though you gave holy objects to everyone else except me, I will do the same for you. Xian was surprised at Jiang Han's words and then burst out laughing. Woo! Dai was unhappy when he heard Jiang Han's words and it immediately stood up to help its youngest brother. Woo, 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 woo. It pointed at Tiny Tot. Hurry up, brother, be sensible. Seeing Dai's movement, Tiny Tot finally understood what it should do. COO, COO. It vomited out a kind of 4th level spiritual herb and gave it to Jiang Han. Jiang Han was amused. It's okay, take it back. Tiny Tot did not understand Jiang Han's words. Finally, Jiang Han gave up trying to coax it and took the herb. With a wave of his hand, the herb at holy object level flew into the herb garden. Go to the mountain nearby and get used to your power. Jiang Han told Dai. Woo! Dai waved its hand and ran to the side mountain with Little Hai and Tiny Tot. Looking at Dai's huge back, Chen Chenking sighed. Dai reached Divine Realm so easily and a lot of human beings will envy it. Brother Han, you are really powerful. Jiang Han smiled. It's because of its hard work that Dai obtained this opportunity. Jiang Han still remembered the scene when Dai was struggling to climb to the top of the mountain. Jiang Han gave it the opportunity and Dai grasped it. Therefore, Dai was different from ordinary beasts and martial artists. What will it evolve into in the future? Chen Chenking asked curiously. Jiang Han's answer consisted of 2 simple words. King Kong, Jiang Han said. Chapter 700, Heavenly Treasure School. King Kong? Chen Chenking was surprised. He had heard of these 2 words and they represented unparalleled strength and greatness. It was said that King Kong appeared in ancient times and was called the Asian giant ape at that time. But Chen Chenking remembered that the height of the giant apes described by others was between 3 and 4 meters and those who reached the height of 5 or 6 meters were very powerful. However, Dai was over 10 meters tall now. In this case, Dai can also be called King Kong now. Chen Chenking was still a little confused. He did not know that his understanding of King Kong was different from that of Jiang Han. After thinking it over, Chen Chenking asked, can Dai, with its figure, height, strength and cultivation, be the leader of the King Kong clan? Leader? Jiang Han was amused and shook his head. He's not even a King Kong now. Why? Chen Chenking looked at Jiang Han in confusion. Zif was surprised too and she asked, tell us why, brother-in-law. Just tell us briefly. Xian smiled and looked at Jiang Han with eyes that shone with adoration. Sometimes she liked to watch Jiang Han talk, as he looked very knowledgeable, like a charming professor who knew everything, while Jiang Han was handsome in Xian's eyes. His charm as a strong man was the attraction for others. Okay, I'll tell you about it. Jiang Han shook his head with a smile and suggested everyone sat down in the pavilion. After sitting down, Chen Chenking took out a few bottles of cold drinks and some fruits from his space ring. Ready to listen carefully. The so-called ancient demonic beasts refer to those high-end beasts that have been living forever. Their unique bloodline has been handed down from generation to generation, but their numbers are gradually decreasing. They are all talented and some of them were born at innateness stage. It is so simple for them to cultivate by constantly awakening and absorbing external energy, and they are even able to cultivate while sleeping. It is because of this super great talent that their reproductive abilities have been gradually weakened, so these ancient demonic beasts are getting rarer. Is Dai an ancient demonic beast? Zif was stunned. Though Zif never cared much about the martial arts world, she knew about the levels of Chi Strength Master, Martial Art Grand Master, Divine Realm and so on, but she had never heard of these ancient demonic beasts mentioned by Jiang Han. Dai is not. It is just an ordinary gorilla now, but its fitness will be greatly improved after it fully absorbs the drop of blood essence, and perhaps it will become a King Kong one day, step by step. Even the youngest King Kong has the elixir stage strength. If you don't know what elixir stage is, it is a stage above Heaven Realm. A stage above Heaven Realm? Chen Qingqing was surprised. After thinking it over, he said, "Forget it. I just advanced to Divine Realm and that stage is a little far away for me. Let's talk about it later." Brother Han, tell me more about King Kong and the ancient demonic beasts. Dai is now a spirit beast, while the strength of ancient demonic beasts is passed down through their bloodlines. There is still a long way to go for Dai to become as powerful as an ancient King Kong. Ancient demonic beast sounds so powerful. Zif made a face. This is a high-level name. They can also look different. Ziyan smiled mischievously. Tiny Tot is an ancient demonic beast. Jiang Han also smiled. In fact, ancient demonic beasts were also graded according to their strength. Instead of introducing the more complex relationship map, Jiang Han decided to tell them some relatively simple facts. Tiny Tot was born not too long ago. During this period, the energy surrounding its body forms the Boat of Curse, which is one of the unique abilities of ancient demonic beasts. I see. Chen Qingqing was stunned. Though he knew that Tiny Tot had the Boat of Curse ability, he did not know that Tiny Tot was born with such immense strength. After a while, Dai came back just as Jiang Han finished his lecture. It was swaggering. It went by the side road and came back through the dense forest. My gosh, what's that? Wang Ming and Wang Zanping were carefully studying 100 formation image and having a heated discussion. Suddenly, they saw something black coming from the side. When they turned their heads, they were instantly stunned. Dai, what's going on? Why are you so big now? You are taller than 10 meters, right? They began to marvel at the sight. Woo, 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 woo. Dai's mouth curved upward. Then he called out twice to them and posed again to show the muscles of his right arm, which frightened all the human beings on the scene. That's enough. Don't show off here, go back to the back mountain, we'll continue to study the array. Wang Zanping waved his hand. Woo, 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 woo. Dai rolled its eyes. You dare look down on me? Whoa, whoa. Dai roared and hit the ground with its right palm. Buzz. The ground more than 20 meters in diameter around them quaked several times. Huh? Wang Zanping sensed Dai's chi. His expression suddenly froze. What's this, Dai? Are you at Grandmaster Peak now? Woo, 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 woo. Dai cheered several times. Of course. Wang Ming, Wang Zanhong and the others were all stunned. Woo, woo. Dai jumped up toward the hillside and took 2 steps forward. Then it stopped with both legs apart, bent down and looked at Wang Zanping from between its legs. What is it doing? Wang Ming was confused. Then they heard a puff sound. It was not until a stench came to their noses that they realized that Dai had farted blatantly at them. A tissue, a tissue. Dai burst out laughing as he ran into the forest. Ooh ooh ooh. Little Hai followed it. COO. Half a minute later, Tiny Tot slowly ran toward them. Wang Zanping and the others were all amused by its clumsy appearance. If they had heard Jiang Han's narration earlier, their attitude toward Tiny Tot would be different. The 3 naughty guys ran all the way to the back mountain and played in front of Jiang Han and the others. 2 minutes later, Dai, at the request of Ziyan, changed back to the height of over 2 meters. As soon as Dai became smaller, a cry came from the front mountain. Ouch, stop. Then they saw Instructor Liu on the top of the mountain. He ran to Jiang Han crazily, looking flustered. Everyone, including Jiang Han and Chen Chenking, knew that it must be Jiang Yanlan coming again. They guessed right. Behind Instructor Liu was Jiang Yanlan, who was chasing him with a willow branchlet in her hand. When she came to the back mountain and saw Jiang Han and Chen Chenking, Jiang Yanlan finally stopped. "I'll catch you the next time. Ha ha ha." Instructor Liu laughed. "That's impossible. Stand aside. I'm here for business today." Jiang Yanlan rolled her eyes at Instructor Liu, quickly went to Jiang Han and sat down beside Zuf, then she helped herself to a cold drink. Slurp, slurp. After downing half a bottle, Jiang Yanlan wiped her lips, looked at Jiang Han and Chen Chenking, and said, "Good vacation, isn't it? You'll be busy soon. Is the gate of the small world open?" Chen Chenking was surprised. Jiang Han narrowed his eyes slightly in excitement. Has the day he was looking forward to finally come? It's not about that. Instead of letting them guess, Jiang Yanlan said directly, "It's a good thing I think. The worldlet is about to open in 7 to 10 days, but we learned about something before that. Heavenly Treasure School will be opening before the worldlet. It is located in Cloud Sea City in the northwest this time. 5 days later, on Saturday, there will be a treasure gathering held by Heavenly Treasure School on the top of Cloud Mountain at the western suburb of Cloud Sea City. It will last for only 1 day and most of the martial artists in the worldlet are unable to go there. Jiang Han Yang, you have a lot of treasures and you can exchange them for something useful, so that you can face the coming forces in the worldlet with more confidence. Heavenly Treasure School?" Jiang Han smiled. "Their chief is No Action Immortal, right?" "Yes. Their chief is No Action Immortal. Our eldest brother had the honor to meet him once, but his face could not be seen clearly. No Action Immortal is very powerful and he is said to be the only one at Heaven Realm living in this world." Jiang Yanlan was serious when he was introducing No Action Immortal. The first person Jiang Han remembered was Yu Wei, so he looked at Chen Chenking and said, "It is said that you are the supporter of the Qingfeng sect in Xihang. Are you familiar with Yu Wei, their chief?" "Who?" Chen Chenking was confused. "I have not heard of such a person. Yu Wei, Qingfeng sect. Oh, Brother Han, are you talking about Standby sect?" "Yes. I see. I don't know Yu Wei. I'm only familiar with 2 of their elders. Haven't you heard of their chief?" Jiang Han asked casually. He always felt that Yu Wei had some secrets. "Yes, it's said that their chief likes to travel around the world and doesn't go back to the sect often." Chen Chenking asked curiously, "What's wrong, Brother Han? Do you know him?" Yu Wei and No Action Immortal are not necessarily the same person. It's a big world and there are too many people with the same name and surname. "Yes." Jiang Han nodded his head slightly and smiled without saying anything more. He thought maybe Yu Wei was No Action Immortal. Whether it was true or not, he would find out when he went to Cloud Sea City. There are 5 days to go and we can make some preparations. Chen Chenking grinned. Every time Heavenly Treasure School opens, there will be a grand gathering of unusual treasures, including many kinds of natural precious materials. I'm going back to Shangjing to get some treasures from my grandfather there. If the warlord of Chan clan heard this, he will probably scold Chen Chenking again. Which naughty boy would take friendship more seriously than family?